Chapter 1251. Reality took the token and was about to leave when he was suddenly stopped by the old man. "Wait, if there's any trouble you can't solve, remember to let me know." "Yes." Reality nodded again and left. He sighed in his heart that the emptiness realm cultivator was really lucky to be favored by this lord. However, what he was more curious about was why this virtual realm expert had the guts to kill a corporeal realm expert. On a street in Huping City, two women were walking forward. "Sister Hong, it's that person." One of the women suddenly spoke. "It's him, Zichen." Shangguan Hong saw Zichen walking out of the city. "What's he doing?" From afar, Zichen's expression was very calm. However, it was this calmness that made Shangguan Hong feel that something was wrong. Sure enough, as soon as Zichen left her sight, another person appeared. It was the city guard who had a conflict with Zichen. The city guard was very fast and emitted an undisguised, murderous intent. "Is he in trouble?" Xiao Li saw this scene and couldn't help but worry. She was very grateful that Zichen gave her a real weapon. Moreover, that transaction gave her a lot of commission. Seeing Zichen again, she couldn't help but worry. Shangguan Hong didn't speak. She just looked in the direction Zichen left. No one knew what she was thinking. Soon, more city guards appeared. There were many of them, and their goal was very clear. They were all outside the city. "There are so many city guards. Sister Hong, that Zichen must be in danger. Can you help him?" Xiao Li asked worriedly. Shangguan Hong shook her head and said, "I said that I would help him, but he didn't want to. This time, even if I want to help him, I'm afraid I can't unless—" Xiao Li didn't ask what "unless" because she had already guessed that unless she had to pay a huge price, this price was not something Sister Hong was willing to pay. Soon, many more cultivators appeared on the street. Then there was a burst of discussion. Hearing these discussions, the two women's expressions immediately changed. He actually took the initiative to fight. The two were very confused and puzzled. At the same time, they were also very curious. An emptiness realm cultivator against a corporeal realm cultivator. There was a difference of an entire realm between them. Since he promised it himself, he should be confident. Maybe he has friends waiting outside the city. Xiao Li muttered. Shangguan Hong smiled and said, "No matter what it is, it's better to go out and have a look." With that, the two of them walked out of the city. Zichen quickly left the city and continued forward. "Kid, don't even think about running away," Iwai shouted, and then quickly chased after him. "Idiot." Zichen glanced at him disdainfully, then suddenly sped up. "Damn it, he's running away." Iwai knew that something was wrong and quickly chased after him. Zichen stopped 2.5 kilometers away from the city. He turned around and looked in the direction of Huping City with a black saber in his hand. The long sword was none other than the demonic blade jointly crafted by Cauldron Spirit and Wang Jun. It possessed unimaginable sharpness. Zichen held his saber and calmly looked at the person in front of him. "I thought you ran away." Iwai stood 100 meters away from Zichen and said coldly. The sound of people rushing through the air could be heard continuously. One cultivator after another arrived. Soon the area was completely surrounded. Most of these people thought that Zichen would run away. But when they saw that he was actually waiting here, they were all surprised. Many of the city guards had arrived. Kuriko and the others were also watching the show from afar. As long as Zhou Chong did not attack, no one would be a threat to Zichen. Zichen glanced at Iwai and then at the other city guards. He asked indifferently, "You idiots, are you going to come one by one or all at once?" Such a lofty provocation naturally caused an uproar. The others were furious. They threatened to charge forward and kill Zichen. Iwai waved his hand and said, "You don't have to do anything. I can kill him myself." After saying that, he walked step by step towards Zichen. Zichen, however, said mockingly, "What? Are you going to use your status as a city guard to kill me? Or are you saying that after I kill you, you city guards can legitimately join forces to kill me?" When they heard Zi Chen's contemptuous words, all the city guards were furious. You're just a mere virtual realm cultivator. Who do you think you are? How dare you bargain with the city guards? Humph. If I use my status as a city guard to kill a virtual realm cultivator like you, it will be an insult to the city guards. After saying that, Iwai tore off an epaulette from his shoulder. This was the insignia of the city guards. Then he shouted to the crowd, "Everyone, please be my witness. I am not a city guard. I am just an ordinary, early-stage, corporeal realm cultivator. Now, because of a personal grudge, I will kill this virtual realm cultivator." "Okay, we will be your witness." As soon as Iwai finished speaking, many voices echoed. Iwai nodded in satisfaction. Then he looked at Zichen. "Can we begin?" "Yes," Zichen said calmly. Then he tightened his grip on the demonic blade in his hand. "Do you think that you can rely on a corporeal realm cultivator to fight someone above your level? Stop dreaming. The difference between a corporeal realm cultivator and a virtual realm cultivator isn't just a weapon." As soon as he finished speaking, Iwai pointed a finger at Zichen. Streaks of corporeal realm cultivator power appeared between his fingers. This power instantly enveloped Zichen. Zichen moved a few times, but he couldn't break free. In an instant, Zichen was trapped. This was very surprising. They thought that since this virtual realm cultivator was so arrogant, he would have some tricks up his sleeve. They didn't expect him to be so weak. When he saw that the virtual realm cultivator was trapped, Iwai sneered and rushed toward Zichen. "Sister Hong, what should we do?" Xiao Li asked worriedly from afar. "Let's wait and see." "He shouldn't be so weak," Shangguan Hong said calmly. However, she didn't have much confidence in herself. As for the corporeal realm cultivator who was in charge of dealing with Zichen, he kept shaking his head. Zichen was still struggling, but he couldn't break free from the corporeal realm cultivator's seal. Iwai walked in front of Zichen with a sinister smile. Die. He didn't even use a corporeal realm cultivator's sword. He held his sword with one hand and shot out a corporeal realm cultivator's sword aura toward Zichen's heart. If this attack pierced his heart, Zichen would die without a doubt. Iwai still didn't use his full strength for this attack. This was because he still held back some of his strength in case Zichen counterattacked. As a corporeal realm cultivator, he naturally wasn't an idiot. Although his words were vicious, his mind was still very meticulous. Just when the sword aura was an inch away from Zichen, and Iwai had completely let down his guard, Zichen made his move. A destructive power surged from the hand holding his blade. This power broke free from the corporeal realm cultivator's restraint. Then, Zichen raised his blade high and slashed down fiercely. Clang! During this time, the sword aura had already hit Zichen's chest. Under the powerful force, Zichen's outer clothes were torn apart, revealing the inner armor underneath. The inner armor blocked Iwai's attack and exploded into sparks. Aft! After this attack, Iwai didn't have the strength to make a second attack. Perhaps he sensed that something was wrong and retreated. The demonic blade turned into a beam of light and slashed towards his opponent's throat. After a sound, Iwai's head was separated from his body. His greatly changed expression completely froze. His soul that wanted to rush out of his mind was instantly destroyed by a huge force. The headless corpse spurted blood. Iwai's head fell to the ground with a thud. The surroundings had long since become deathly silent. The battle started quickly and ended just as quickly. The outcome was unexpected. Looking at the corporeal realm cultivator's corpse and then at the virtual realm cultivator holding the demonic blade, everyone's faces were filled with shock. How could a virtual realm cultivator kill a corporeal realm cultivator? This was something that completely defied common sense. However, if one thought about it carefully, this was very likely. Iwai had underestimated his opponent. Not only did the virtual realm cultivator have an offensive weapon, but he also had a defensive weapon on him. Moreover, the last attack was too shocking. Furthermore, Iwai was exhausted, so he didn't have time to dodge. The field was still, deathly silent. However, Zichen made a move. He first collected the corpse, then took a few steps forward and collected the head as well. After doing all this, Zichen's gaze swept across the distance again. He said coldly, "Are there any more idiots coming up?" The crowd, who had just regained consciousness, felt that their minds were in a mess because of Zichen's provocation again. Shouldn't he quit while he was ahead and leave immediately after winning by luck? But why was he still provoking him? Could it be that the virtual realm cultivator still thought that luck was on his side? Good Lord, this is purely suicidal. Corporeal, who was in charge of dealing with Zichen's troubles, suddenly said this. In his heart, he didn't want to give the rank 3 token to Zichen. He could also see that Zichen had won by luck. Was it luck? Was it a coincidence? Or was it intentional? Even Shang Guanhong didn't understand. Perhaps only He Zi and the others in the field knew what this was, but they all looked equally shocked. It had to be said that these people were really bad. The crowd didn't understand, but the city army was extremely angry. One person rushed out and said angrily, "Kid, I'll kill you." A trace of ridicule appeared on Zichen's indifferent expression. He glanced at the person's epaulette and said, "Don't you know the rules?" The city army was a huge monster. Even if he had the right, Zichen still didn't want to kill them openly. Humph, everyone, please be my witness. I'm not the city army. I'm just an ordinary person. Corporeal tore off his epaulette and said to the crowd. Voices of agreement rose again. After receiving confirmation, the city army soldier rushed toward Zichen. This time, however, he learned from Iwai's lesson. Just as he was about to reach Zichen, he opened up his corporeal space and directly sucked Zichen in. There was suddenly no one in the field. This greatly disappointed the people who wanted to watch this battle, and many of the city army soldiers frowned. They were worried that after killing the virtual realm cultivator, that person would move the wealth inside ahead of time. However, this worry was obviously unnecessary. After about 10 breaths of time, the corporeal space opened up again and a person appeared from within. When the crowd saw this person's appearance, shock and horror naturally appeared on their faces again. How is this possible? It's still that virtual realm cultivator. He killed corporeal again. This is impossible. It must be an illusion. No one could believe what they were seeing, but it was indeed the case. Chapter 1252. Who else? The cold voice spread throughout the wilderness, shaking everyone's hearts. Zichen stood in the air with his black saber in hand. His brand-new robes fluttered in the absence of wind. His black hair danced wildly, and his eyes shot out cold lightning. Although he was only in the virtual realm, his battle record of killing 2 corporeal realm cultivators in a row was awe-inspiring. Who else? The cold voice sounded again. It was full of provocation, but to everyone's ears, it sounded firm and arrogant. At this moment, Zichen's tall and cold image attracted the attention of countless female cultivators. Zhou Chang's expression turned extremely ugly. Clearly, he did not expect the virtual realm cultivator to kill the second corporeal realm cultivator. No one had seen the entire process of the battle, so no one knew how Zichen had managed to win. "I'll do it." Another loud shout was heard, and a soldier from the city rushed out. This person was tactful. Without waiting for Zichen to speak, he tore off his epaulette, which meant that he was now an ordinary person. Then he rushed toward Zichen. He took a step forward, and the ground trembled. He rose into the air and raised the weapon in his hand. Then he slashed at Zichen. A bright light shot out from the weapon. Then, with a powerful and terrifying aura, it slashed at Zichen. The moment Corporeal made his move, Zichen moved as well. Lightning flashed around his body as he rushed toward Corporeal at the fastest speed in the world. Just as Corporeal rose into the air, Zichen arrived in front of him. His strange speed shocked Corporeal. Corporeal's attack was so stunning that it caused ripples in the void. However, the attack did not hit Zichen. The spatial pressure was ineffective against Ziqin. Instead, it allowed Ziqin to appear in front of him. After dodging Corporeal's attack, Ziqin slashed with the demonic saber in his hand. A bright light streaked across the sky. Puffed! Another head flew. Corporeal's attack was still moving forward, even after his head was chopped off. It flew several miles before landing on the ground, causing a rumbling sound. The third city guard was killed. This battle had been witnessed by everyone. Reality had attacked once, while Ziqin had attacked once. However, no one had noticed anything amiss. On the contrary, the eyes of many Emptiness Realm experts lit up. They thought that they had found a shortcut to kill an enemy of a higher level. Of course, the prerequisite was that they had a decent real weapon. The rain of blood in the air didn't touch his body. Ziqin gripped his saber and swept his gaze around again. This time he didn't speak, but the surging fighting spirit on his body was enough to indicate his current stance. 3 city guards had died, and no one could tell what the other party was relying on. Was it a coincidence or was it strength? No one could say for sure. As for the other city guards, they were also a little scared and didn't dare to step forward. Ziqin seemed to have guessed what the other party was thinking. He said indifferently, "If you want to kill me, feel free to come at me. It doesn't matter if you want to fight me one-on-one or if you want to gang up on me." These words caused an uproar. The 2 city guards looked at each other, then rushed out of the crowd and charged toward Ziqin. This time, Ziqin uncharacteristically retreated. Moreover, he kept retreating and retreating. He didn't accept the challenge at all. It wasn't until boos came from all around that the 2 Reality Realm experts finally reacted. Their expressions immediately turned ugly. The 2 of them tore off their epaulets and shouted, "Die!" The retreating Ziqin sneered. He had been retreating all this time, but now he was charging forward. In the process of charging forward, the heavenly thunder wings appeared on Ziqin's back. After the heavenly thunder wings unfurled, a huge Emptiness Realm space was created and enveloped the 2 Reality Realm experts. Ziqin's Emptiness Realm space was only 3 meters wide, but with the help of the heavenly thunder wings, he could create an Emptiness Realm space that was more than 1,000 meters wide. When the crowd saw the Emptiness Realm enveloping the Reality Realm experts, their expressions became incomparably strange. This was because everyone knew that the Emptiness Realm space couldn't do anything to the Reality Realm space. However, because Ziqin had killed 3 Reality Realm experts, the crowd still had some expectations for him. They didn't expect that their expectations would come true. In just 5 short breaths, the Emptiness Realm disappeared and 2 corpses fell from the sky. Ziqin rose into the air again. This time, the heavenly thunder wings appeared on his back. The heavenly thunder wings flashed with thousands of lightning bolts, making Ziqin appear even more extraordinary. If anyone still thought that he had killed 5 Reality Realm experts in a row because of luck, then they were truly idiots. Thinking back to the Emptiness Realm experts' previous actions, it was obvious that they were confident in killing Reality Realm experts. This was why they were forced to give up their identities as city guards. At the same time, they moved the arena deathmatch to outside the city in order to kill more people. The current Ziqin was undoubtedly intimidating everyone present. Many Emptiness Realm experts were even more curious about Ziqin's battle prowess. At the same time, they were also thinking about the methods he had used to kill his enemies. They secretly thought that if they had the chance, they would also want to try it out. Zhou Chang's expression became more and more gloomy. The surrounding city guards didn't dare to step forward. He Zi and the others naturally didn't have any meaning in pretending anymore. Their faces were full of ridicule. "Sister Hong, he's actually this strong." Xiao Li's eyes widened. Her face was full of disbelief. At this moment, she suddenly remembered what Ziqin had said when he had given her a weapon. It wasn't anything valuable. It was just a matter of a single slash. It was indeed very easy to obtain a weapon by killing a Reality Realm expert with a single slash. Shangguan Hong's beautiful eyes flashed. It was obvious that she was also stunned by Zi Chen's battle prowess. The city guards didn't dare to step forward. At this moment, all their attention was focused on Zhou Chong. It's one thing to bully others just because you're one realm higher, but if you bully others just because you're several realms higher, I'm afraid you'll become a laughingstock. An indifferent voice sounded from beside Zhou Chong. It was Wang Jun. He had arrived at some point in time. I'll bully him. Zhou Chong sneered when he heard this. Then he sent a sound transmission to a reality realm expert. The latter's expression froze, but he quickly came to his senses. He shouted at Zi Chen in front of him. Zi Chen, are you trying to bully us because there's no one in the city guards? A trace of mockery appeared on Zi Chen's indifferent face. He said, Do the city guards have a grudge against me? Zi Chen's meaning was very clear. There was no way he could use his status as a city guard to suppress him, because the people he killed were all ordinary people. You're indeed a cunning brat. The reality realm expert spoke again. So you think that no one in the reality realm is your match? I didn't say that. If you really think so, I have no objections. You can come up and fight me. I guarantee that I won't let you live. The reality realm expert's expression turned even colder in the face of Zi Chen's threat. He said indifferently, Good. What an arrogant brat. As he spoke, the reality realm expert turned around and looked at the group of reality realm experts who were preparing to take the exam. He said, What should we do in the face of someone's provocation? The group of reality realm experts shouted, Kill. Very good. The reality realm expert decisively tore off the epaulet in his hand and said indifferently, I'm also an ordinary person now. Are you all willing to kill the enemy with me? Kill. The group of reality realm experts shouted again. All around them, everyone's expression changed. It was obvious that this move was meant to incite a group of corporeal realm experts to kill. Even if this void realm expert was extraordinary and could kill corporeal realm experts in a domineering manner, how could he be a match for hundreds of corporeal realm experts? What was even more shameless was that although the reality realm expert had taken off the epaulet of the city guard, he was still a city guard himself. It was only through his rallying power that he was able to mobilize these people who were preparing to take the exam. This was because everyone knew that this person was with the invigilator. In the face of this situation, everyone felt that something was wrong for the emptiness realm expert. However, when they turned their heads to look at him, they found that his expression was extremely calm. This discovery made them even more confused. Seeing that the situation had become serious, neither He Zi nor Wang Jun had any intention of stopping it. Kill. The more he killed, the harder it would be for Zhou Chong to explain himself. As for Zi Chen, how could these people kill him? The arena was so small that it was impossible for 300 people to attack together. Moreover, Zi Chen was no fool. How could he just stand there and not move? This kind of encirclement seemed very frightening, but if they could successfully charge in, it would become much simpler. Instead of saying that so many people were here to surround and kill Zi Chen, it was better to say that they were here to be killed by Zi Chen. He's confident. He's actually confident. Shang Guanhong felt that it was extremely inconceivable. The person from Hunter's Castle was so shocked that his eyes widened. After the reality realm expert had incited the crowd, he stared coldly at Zi Chen. Then, the killing intent in his eyes became even more intense. In the end, the killing intent solidified. He shouted, Kill. After a loud shout, there was a thunderous roar of killing. Then, a group of reality realm experts charged towards Zi Chen. A total of 300 reality realm experts charged towards an emptiness realm expert. This was the first time that something like this had happened since the establishment of Huping City. Those who were lucky enough to witness this scene today were destined to never forget it. 300 reality realm experts charged forward. Not only did the emptiness realm expert not retreat, he even charged forward. One emptiness realm expert charged towards 300. Everyone was completely shocked by the courage of the emptiness realm expert. The shocked crowd found it difficult to notice some details. If they had noticed, they would have felt the aura on the emptiness realm expert's body skyrocket as he charged forward. Soon, the emptiness realm expert's strength skyrocketed from the early stage to the early stage of the reality realm. A 2-meter reality realm expert propped up around his body. At this moment, his original extreme speed seemed more like teleportation. The first group of reality realm experts had already launched their attacks. Many powerful and terrifying attacks whistled through the air and rushed towards Zichin. Boom! The sky suddenly trembled. Terrifying energy ripples vibrated. The emptiness realm expert's body was instantly torn to shreds by the many forces. Everyone around him cried out in alarm. Could it be that the emptiness realm expert was killed just like that? Cries of alarm continued to rise and fall. No one could believe that the emptiness realm expert was killed in one blow. A mournful scream suddenly rang out amidst the cries of alarm. This scream came from the group of reality realm experts. As everyone turned their heads to look, they discovered that the emptiness realm expert had unknowingly charged into the group of reality realm experts. At this moment, the emptiness realm expert was on a killing spree. One slash was enough to kill a reality realm expert. Some observant people also discovered that a reality realm expert had appeared behind the emptiness realm expert. Although it was only 2 meters wide, this clearly indicated that the emptiness realm expert was in the reality realm. So he had concealed his strength. Everyone was relieved, but soon they were unable to be relieved. Even if he was in the early stage of the reality realm, his combat strength was still too terrifying. Chapter 1253. There were definitely more than 10,000 cultivators gathered outside Huping City. There were both virtual realm and corporeal realm cultivators. All of them were looking at the sky with extreme shock on their faces. This was because they were watching a heart-stirring feast called a Feast of Slaughter. At this moment, Zichin was like a demon god that had descended into the world. His black hair danced wildly and his eyes were cold and emotionless. He held a demonic saber that could devour lives. With a flash of the saber, he took a life. The sky was filled with bloody light that turned into specks of light. It was as if a bloody rain had fallen. If one were to describe Zichin with one word, it would be terrifying. If one had to add another word, it would be extremely terrifying. Uft! Uft! The black saber flashed with brilliance. Every time the saber fell, a corporeal realm cultivator would be killed. Heads flew into the sky, and corpses fell to the ground. Zichin relied on his teleportation-like speed to move between the many attacks, reaping one life after another. In the blink of an eye, dozens of corporeal realm cultivators had been killed by Zichin. As for the other corporeal realm cultivators, they were instantly frightened by Zichin's crazy massacre. They panicked and started to flee. Just like how they had been willing to kill Zichin earlier, they had thought that they might not necessarily die if they had more people. Now that they were taking advantage of the chaos to escape, they also thought that they might not die if they had more people. As a result, these people died even faster after losing the means to resist. Mournful screams resounded in the sky. They were like spiritual attacks that attacked the minds of everyone present. Many people who were shocked were awakened by the impact of the screams. However, after they woke up, horror appeared on their faces once again. Sister Hong. As a mid-stage virtual realm cultivator, Shaoli was completely frightened by Zichin's massacre method. One had to know that the people in the sky were all powerful corporeal realm cultivators. However, in front of Zichin, they could be killed with a single saber strike. Her body trembled in fear, and she involuntarily leaned towards Shang Guanhong. In the next moment, she felt a slight tremble beside her. It was obvious that Shang Guanhong was also not calm at the moment. At this moment, Zichin, who was like a demon god, was deeply imprinted in Shaoli's heart. Not just Shaoli, but many other female cultivators as well. Enough! Stop! A belated roar resounded through the air. It was Zhou Chong. If Zichen was allowed to continue his slaughter, all 300 corporeal realm experts would definitely be killed. When that happened, even if his father was the commander, he would not be able to explain himself. Zhou Chong stood in front of Zichen and blocked him. The soldier from before shouted in fear, "Captain, save me!" Zichen smiled coldly at Zhou Chong and rushed towards him with his saber in hand. "You're courting death!" Zhou Chong roared and struck forward. Bang! With a loud bang, Zichen's body exploded, but it was only an illusory body. Zhou Chong said angrily, "Damn it." In the next moment, a shrill scream came from behind Zhou Chong. It was the corporeal realm expert who had instigated everyone to attack. His arm had been chopped off. This corporeal realm expert was smart. He wanted to put his epaulette back on at the critical moment, but Zichen did not give him the chance. He cut off his arm first, and the arm holding the epaulette fell to the ground. The corporeal realm expert's face was pale and filled with fear. Zichen grinned maliciously at him and slashed out with the demonic saber in his hand. Uft! The saber flashed, and the corporeal realm expert's head fell to the ground. Wang Jun's forehead was covered in cold sweat. Even he had not noticed the speed Zichen had displayed just now. If the other party had intentionally slashed at him from behind, he was afraid that he would have been seriously injured, even if he could have dodged it. Indeed, Zichen still had a chance of killing a late-stage corporeal realm expert if he did not stay in his corporeal realm, especially if he caught them off guard. However, Zhou Chong was now the captain of the city army and had a powerful force behind him. Zichen could touch his brows, but he could not kill him. After killing the corporeal realm expert, Zichen rushed out and killed the others. Just as Zhou Chong was about to give chase, Wang Jun moved to block him. "Wang Jun, what are you doing?" Zhou Chong shouted at Wang Jun. Wang Jun said indifferently, "I want to ask you what you're doing." Zhou Chong pointed at Zichen and said, "Don't you see that there's a homicidal maniac here?" Wang Jun sneered, "I only see 300 corporeal realm experts besieging an emptiness realm expert, and you agreed to it." Zhou Chong's expression changed greatly. He said angrily, "Get out of the way." Wang Jun said indifferently, "The city army is not allowed to participate in private fights. This is something everyone knows. Are you going to violate the rules?" Zhou Chong clearly did not expect Wang Jun to use the rules to pressure him. He said angrily, "They are the city army's reserve forces who are preparing to participate in the examination." Wang Jun said coldly, "Maybe they were before, but after the fight they are just ordinary people. This is just an evil force besieging an emptiness realm cultivator. But who would have thought that the emptiness realm cultivator would turn the tables on them? If we really want to talk about it, the other party is just defending themselves." Zhou Chong was so angry that he almost vomited blood. What did he mean by defending themselves? How could a massacre be called defending themselves? "Wang Jun, get out of the way." Zhou Chong did not care so much now. He only knew that if more of these people died, his responsibility would be greater. No, Wang Jun stood in front of Zhou Chong like an iron tower. "You really won't?" Zhou Chong's eyes were a little red. Wang Jun smiled. "I've been sent away for the past 500 years, but you've been in seclusion. Why don't you let me see how much your cultivation has improved in the past 500 years? Zhou Chong was so angry that he wanted to point at Wang Jun's nose and curse. Was this the time to fight? This was the time to save people, okay? Fortunately, they were not far from the city, and there were many city army soldiers watching. They naturally would not allow Zichen to continue his massacre. After all, these people were going to participate in the city army selection. Stop! One by one, the city army soldiers rushed out, ready to stop Zichen. Unfortunately, in front of the world's fastest speed, these people's speed was not even worth mentioning. Zichen could completely bypass these city army soldiers and kill those in the corporeal realm. The scene was extremely shocking. Everyone was first frightened, then they felt their blood boil. As a cultivator, they should be this strong. They originally thought that Zi Chen's provocation was reckless, but now they saw it as the unyielding demeanor of a strong cultivator. Zi Chen was slaughtering, Zhou Chong was blocked by Wang Jun, and the other city army soldiers could not stop Zi Chen. The situation was out of control. One after another, the corporeal realm cultivators fell and were killed. However, when they died, fire dragons would appear and drag their bodies away. The surrounding crowd retreated again and again, afraid that they would be implicated. Is this the legendary world's fastest speed? Suddenly, an indifferent voice sounded from the sky. Then, an extremely mysterious power appeared from the sky. This was a power that surpassed the physical space. It directly passed through space and landed on Zi Chen, who was quickly dodging. During this time, Zi Chen felt a dangerous aura and dodged again and again. However, this power was like teleportation. It followed Zi Chen like a shadow and finally enveloped him. Enveloped by this power, Zi Chen's body was unable to move. This time, he was truly unable to move. He felt an aura of death from this mysterious power. He could not break free, and he did not dare to break free. At some point, an old man in armor appeared in the sky. He stood high up in the sky and looked down at Zi Chen. His eyebrows were like knives and his eyes were like lightning. He gave off a fierce and domineering feeling. When the city army saw the old man, their faces immediately lit up with joy. They all saluted the old man. "Greetings, Commander." Loud voices sounded from all around. The confrontation between Wang Jun and Zhou Chong also ended because of the old man's appearance. The two of them turned and saluted the old man. "Greetings, Commander." The old man glanced at Wang Jun and said indifferently, "It seems that 500 years have passed." Wang Jun saluted again, but did not say anything. The old man had dealt with the matter unfairly in the past. The commanders of the city army were all in the domain realm. They had created their own domain. Once the domain grew, it would become an independent world. Therefore, every domain realm expert was extremely powerful. Even in the Jianwu continent, as long as a domain realm expert wanted to live a good life, he would definitely live a good life. At this moment, the old man appeared as a commander. It was obvious that he was in the domain realm. This was a realm that everyone was in awe of. Many of the cultivators who were watching the show below lowered their heads, with awe on their faces. Zi Chen had always heard about how powerful the domain realm was and how extraordinary the power of the domain realm was. Today, when he personally experienced it, he realized that this realm was ridiculously powerful. At this moment, the power that enveloped him could fight against the laws of heaven and earth. His rule breaking could not do anything to the other party. Of course, this did not mean that Zi Chen's rule breaking was not strong. It was just that the rule breaking was too weak. Once he grew to a certain level, he would naturally be able to destroy this power. Is this the fastest speed in the world? The old man's gaze fell on Zi Chen again. He looked at the lightning wings on Zi Chen's back, and his eyes flashed with a strange light. Zi Chen naturally did not answer, but his mind was shaken. The old man was the first domain realm expert he saw when he came to this world, but the old man recognized his extreme speed at a glance. Moreover, it was the fastest speed in the world. Zi Chen originally thought that his extreme speed was only for the Tianwu continent and was known as the fastest in the world. He did not expect that it would still be the fastest in the Jianwu continent. The old man continued, "A mere emptiness realm expert, but the wings can help you advance by a realm. It seems that this is a rare treasure." As soon as this was said, even though the crowd was extremely respectful to the old man, they still lost their composure and burst into an uproar. They originally thought that the emptiness realm expert was just hiding his strength and that his realm was in the corporeal realm. Only then could he go on a killing spree. However, after hearing the old man's words, they realized that the old man's true realm was the emptiness realm. As a result, It gave people the illusion that the emptiness realm expert was strong with the wings. Without the wings, he was still very ordinary. Immediately, the crowd looked at Zi-Chun with burning eyes. However, Zi-Chen's expression became gloomy because of this. The old man's words had undoubtedly put him on the opposite side of everyone. Chapter 1254. As soon as the elder finished speaking, a wave of pressure surged out from his body and swept toward Zi-Chen. The pressure was so strong that it caused Zi-Chen's expression to change. The 2 meters of reality around him started to tremble as if it was about to collapse. The old man looked down at Zi-Chen coldly, as if he was waiting for Zi-Chen's reality to shatter on its own. Suddenly, a golden light flashed across the surface of the 2-meter reality. The golden light stabilized the collapsing space of the reality and blocked the realm pressure outside. The pressure on Zi-Chen was greatly reduced. He raised his head and looked at the realm as he said, "I was only passively retaliating. The people I killed were those who wanted me dead. These people were all ordinary people." "I don't understand what you mean." "Ordinary people." "Humph. Do you know that the city's army is among them?" The elder snorted coldly. He was surprised that Zi-Chen was able to block his pressure. Zi-Chen said apologetically, "I'm really sorry. I really didn't know. Some of these people coveted my wealth, and some thought that I wasn't qualified to join the city's army. Regardless of their motives, I'm very sure that they were all ordinary people. As for the city's army, Huping City has rules that prohibit them from participating in private fights for no reason. I don't think they would attack me because they were jealous of my wealth." Zi-Chen's words were powerful, and he placed the city's army in a commanding position. If the realm masters attacked him, it would mean that the city's army had violated the rules. "What a sharp-tongued little fellow. That means you're not wrong." "It's all their fault," the elder said coldly. "I'm wrong. I shouldn't have boasted shamelessly and recklessly registered with the city's army as an emptiness realm master. I made a lot of people unhappy. Now I know my mistake. I gave up the opportunity to take the test, and am willing to be an ordinary hunter," Zi-Chen said respectfully. As soon as he said this, many people's expressions became strange. They could naturally imagine how an emptiness realm master would be treated when he registered with the city's army. Naturally, they would mock, ridicule him. But the result? Those city's army soldiers were killed in front of him. This was the most blatant slap in the face. The old man had deliberately targeted Zi-Chen earlier, which was why Zi-Chen spoke so bluntly. If it was an ordinary domain realm cultivator, Zi-Chen would naturally be apprehensive. However, the other party was the commander of the city's central army. While possessing great authority, he also had to abide by the rules. Zi-Chen had done nothing wrong, so he naturally wasn't afraid that the other party would be ruthless. Zi-Chen's sarcastic retort caused anger to appear on the old man's face. But before he could say anything, a cold voice suddenly rang out. "What's going on?" Another person appeared in the air. This was a middle-aged man. He wore the same armor as the old man, but his expression was even colder. After he appeared, his gaze fell on the group of reserve soldiers in the city. Of the original 300 people, nearly half of them had been killed. The remaining half gathered together and looked terrified. The moment they saw the middle-aged man, the expressions of Zi and the others immediately changed. After that, they bowed towards the middle-aged man. "Greetings, Commander." Another commander had come, and it was obvious that he was also in the domain realm. The middle-aged commander nodded indifferently. Then he looked at Wang Jun and asked, "Wang Jun, didn't I ask you to supervise the reserve soldiers' assessment? Why are they here? How come half of them are gone?" Wang Junxian bowed to the middle-aged commander and said respectfully, "Commander, when I went to the military headquarters, there was no one there. I asked around and found my way here. I happened to see someone who seemed to be from the city's army, leading them to kill an emptiness realm expert." "What, a few hundred people besieging a virtual realm expert?" The middle-aged commander's tone was cold. "Yes, but they seem to have underestimated their opponent and were killed instead, Wang Jun said calmly. The middle-aged commander's face became even more furious. He ignored the pale-faced Zhou Chong and looked at the old man. He asked, Commander Zhou, I need an explanation for besieging a virtual realm expert as reserve soldiers. The surviving reserve soldiers thought that the domain realm commander would help them vent their anger. They didn't expect him to start questioning them as soon as he arrived. Moreover, he didn't seem to have any intention of punishing the culprit. Their faces were filled with grievance. Someone slaughtered our reserve soldiers. How else do we explain this? The old man was slightly angry. The middle-aged commander had a mocking expression on his face. He pointed at Zichen and said, Is it him? Of course. He is only an virtual realm expert. Do you not need an explanation for the hundreds of reserve soldiers besieging him? Our city's central army abides by the rules of the Shantian prefecture. Does this kind of thing follow the rules? The middle-aged commander said coldly. The old man couldn't say anything. They were in the wrong this time. Moreover, the new commander was obviously biased. If this matter was blown out of proportion, he would be the one to suffer. Most importantly, this middle-aged commander was stronger than him. At this moment, the old man chose to remain silent. The middle-aged commander understood the whole story through Wang Jun and He Zi. His expression became even colder. He glanced at Zhou Chong and said indifferently, You disqualified such a person. If he doesn't even have the right to be part of the city's central army, then who does? Zhou Chong lowered his head and didn't say anything. This matter would naturally be handled by his father. The middle-aged commander pointed at the group of reserve soldiers and said, If he doesn't have the right, then what about these useless people who can be killed with a single slash? Facing the middle-aged commander's reprimand, no one dared to speak. Only his voice could be heard. The reserve soldiers didn't even dare to breathe loudly. How can such useless people be part of the city's central army? Wang Jun, you will be in charge of the assessment this time. The difficulty will be doubled. The middle-aged commander finally said, Yes. Wang Jun nodded. The reserve soldiers' faces were ashen. The original assessment mission was already dangerous. If the difficulty was doubled, their chances of survival would be even lower. After dealing with the reserve soldiers, the middle-aged commander didn't punish Zhou Chong. This was obviously out of respect for Commander Zhou. The middle-aged commander's indifferent expression softened. He looked at Zichen and said, You are Zichen, right? Are you willing to join the city's central army? This was obviously an invitation. An invitation from a domain realm expert was definitely a great honor for a city's central army. Everyone was envious of this, but they weren't jealous. This was because they couldn't be jealous. I'm sorry. He is now a senior hunter of Hunter's Castle. Before Zichen could reply, an old voice rang out. Another person appeared in the field out of thin air. It was an old man who looked like he had just woken up. The old man was the one who had issued the mission to Zichen. After he appeared, he didn't look at the two domain realm experts. Instead, he looked at Zichen and praised, Good boy. You completed the mission very well. I'll give you a rank 3 hunting order. The old man handed the token to Zichen. After receiving it, Zichen thanked him gratefully. However, he felt that this token was different from the one he had seen before. The old man nodded in satisfaction. He then looked at the two commanders and said, It seems that you are late. He is already a senior hunter. From now on, he belongs to Hunter's Castle. He can't join the city's central army. Senior hunters were another special group of people in Hunter's Castle. They were exclusive to Hunter's Castle and enjoyed the treatment provided by Hunter's Castle. If a hunter was an inner disciple of a sect, then a senior hunter would be a core disciple. To a hunter, being a senior hunter was already an unparalleled honor. Regardless of whether it was the middle-aged commander or Commander Zhou, both of their expressions changed when they saw the old man. The old man smiled at the two of them. In that case, we will take our leave. The middle-aged commander cupped his fists at the old man and then left in a flash. Commander Zhou did the same and left in a flash. After the battle, the city's central army dispersed one after another. Naturally, the others also left one after another. However, what happened today was destined to spread. Little guy, cultivate well. The old man glanced at Ziqin and left without saying anything else. Ziqin, please follow me to Hunter's castle to report. A voice rang out from below as soon as the old man left. It was a corporeal realm hunter. The matter was resolved just like that. Moreover, many of the city's central army had retreated too quickly. Ziqin still had many doubts. When he heard the other party's words, he put away his long blade and descended from the sky. "Excuse me, what did they mean by senior hunters?" Ziqin asked as he descended. Even now, he could still feel the envy in the eyes of the cultivators who hadn't left yet. The corporeal realm hunter smiled and said, "Senior hunters are actually a type of hunter, but they have a few more privileges than other hunters. They can receive a monthly reward." Receiving a reward? Isn't that a privilege reserved for hunter kings? Ziqin asked in confusion. The corporeal realm hunter said, "It's not the same. Senior hunters are already core members of Hunter's Castle. Hunter's Castle will provide you with resources to help you cultivate. In the future, you can only be a member of Hunter's Castle and can't join the city's central army. If you need, you can take a hunter's token to any city or any hunter's castle and conscript the hunters you need to serve you. It's like the commander of a city, managing a group of soldiers in the city. However, the difference between a veteran hunter and a commander is that the latter can only deploy soldiers in the city they are in, but a veteran hunter can deploy hunters in the 108 cities in the prefecture." After the other party finished explaining, Ziqin was also a bit surprised at how much power a senior hunter had. Ziqin followed the corporeal realm hunter back to the city. Sure enough, after becoming a hunter, he didn't need to pay the city entrance fee. After entering the city, many cultivators still looked at Ziqin strangely, especially some of the more beautiful female cultivators, who frequently sent him ambiguous glances. "Who was the old man who gave me the token before?" Ziqin didn't seem to notice the strangeness around him and asked Wade. Wade's expression changed, and he reminded, "Next time you see him, you should call him Sir or Elderling. Don't ever call him Old Man. Elderling is the manager of Hunter's Castle and has great prestige in the castle. It's just that he usually doesn't care about matters and rarely appears in the castle. I didn't expect you to run into him. He even specially gave you a senior hunter's token." Wade's voice was filled with envy towards the end. "Are these senior hunters' tokens very rare?" Ziqin asked again. "It's not just rare, it's pitifully rare. Let me tell you, in the entire Huping City, apart from Hunter Kings, there are less than 10 senior hunters' tokens issued." Ziqin was shocked when he heard this. So many. Chapter 1255. The process of applying to become a hunter was a little troublesome, especially for veteran hunters. Although Elderling had given Ziqin a token, there was still a lot of cumbersome procedures to follow. However, since Elderling had personally arranged it, several units of cultivators in Hunter's Castle would serve Ziqin alone. Furthermore, all the expenses during this period would be borne by Hunter's Castle. Corporeal realm cultivators had the right to enter the city. It could be said that the survival rate of this realm was much higher than that of Earth and Void realm cultivators. Since Ziqin could easily kill an early corporeal realm cultivator, he could definitely be considered powerhouse. This caused him to frequently attract attention as he walked around Hunter's Castle. Discussions about him also continuously spread. However, because of Commander Zhou's words back then, there were mixed opinions about Ziqin. Some people believed that Ziqin was strong because of his wings, while others believed that Ziqin was still very strong even without his wings. After Ziqin completed the procedures, Wade brought him to his residence. Ziqin did not need to stay in the inn after this, as Hunter's Castle would provide him with a special place to stay. When Ziqin walked into the hall again, he saw many hunters. Many of them had shocked expressions, but there were also some who had strange expressions that clearly contained greed. However, these people were all either mid or late corporeal realm cultivators. Veteran hunters will be paid monthly. You can receive it monthly. Elder Ling told me before he left that your current realm is very low, so the most important thing is to raise it. You can use the cultivation rooms in Hunter's Castle as you wish. All fees are waived. Wade brought Zi Qin to the cultivation rooms. They passed through the hall and arrived at the back of the castle. They walked up a flight of stairs and arrived at the cultivation rooms. The cultivation rooms were divided into 2 levels. One was for the void realm cultivators, while the other was for the corporeal realm cultivators. The cultivation rooms on each level were divided into 4 categories: heaven, earth, black, and yellow. Each category was divided into 8 rooms, from heaven 1 to yellow 8. The heaven 1 room had the densest void energy, while yellow 8 was the weakest. Zi Chun was qualified to use any of the training rooms because he was a senior hunter. Wei then brought Zi Qin to other places for a stroll. There were few places that belonged to the seclusion grounds of some senior hunters. Those places were forbidden areas, and no one was allowed to enter as they pleased. Other than that, the residences of other senior hunters were also restricted areas. Zi Qin asked Wade, among all the senior hunters, Zi Chen was the weakest. After the introduction, Wade bid farewell and left. Zi Chen headed to the Emptiness Realm cultivation room to cultivate. His first choice was naturally the Heaven 1 cultivation room. There was a groove at the entrance. It was where the senior hunter's token was placed. At the same time, it was also the place for identity verification. For hunters, identity was very important. As for Zi Chen's hunting token, it contained his soul, and only Zi Chen could use it. As the hunting token was placed in the groove, the door to the Heaven 1 cultivation room opened. An extremely dense emptiness realm energy rushed toward Tung Qingshan. Zi Chen walked into the Heaven 1 cultivation room. The door behind him closed, but the token in the groove was still there. This proved that someone was cultivating inside. The cultivation room was built with special materials that could seal spiritual power and prevent it from leaking out. On the floor of the cultivation room, there was a huge formation. This was an extremely complicated spirit absorption formation. It could absorb spiritual power from a certain area and then feed it back to the rest of the room. Normally, the spiritual power in this room would be maintained in a normal state. However, once someone entered, the cultivation room would activate normally. The spiritual power floating in this room was the law of emptiness. It was so dense that it almost took the form of a fog. Zi Qin sized up the entire cultivation room. He was extremely satisfied with such a dense emptiness realm law. It was obvious that cultivating in this room would greatly increase the speed of his cultivation. Zi Qin sat cross-legged in the center of the formation. As he circulated his cultivation method, his body emitted an extremely strong suction force. The law of emptiness realm in the cultivation room, which was originally extremely dense, was visibly decreasing. At the same time, an extremely large amount of energy was emitted from the formation beneath Zi Qin. It directly surged into Zi Chen's body. This energy had obviously been refined and was extremely pure. Zi Qin only needed to refine it slightly to completely absorb it. After circulating his cultivation method once, Zi Qin opened his eyes. The extremely dense law of emptiness in the room had become thinner. As expected of Hunter's Castle, the cost of building this cultivation room alone is probably an astronomical figure. After circulating his cultivation method once, the amount of energy Zi Qin absorbed was almost equivalent to cultivating for an entire day. Zi Chen was sincerely impressed by this cultivation room. Less than a quarter of an hour after he stopped, the formation was activated once again. Immediately after, an extremely pure energy surged into the cultivation room. This was the magical effect of the cultivation room number 1. Once it was activated, an endless amount of energy would pour in until the cultivation room closed. As for this cultivation room, because it provided too much energy at an extremely fast rate, it would not be activated under normal circumstances. Occasionally, a few advanced emptiness realm experts would come here to cultivate, but they would quickly leave because they were unable to withstand the rate of replenishment. These people were not used to it, but to Zichen, this was a rare cultivation treasure. Because he had the thunder wings, he could raise his cultivation by an entire realm. Now that Zichen's soul perception was about to break through to the corporeal realm. The only thing he currently lacked was power, and this cultivation room just so happened to provide that power. Moreover, its replenishment speed was not much faster than Zichen's cultivation speed. Therefore, this place was very suitable for Zichen to cultivate. However, Zichen could not rest in the slightest. Otherwise, he would explode from the overwhelming amount of energy in this cultivation room. Zichen was very happy that he had found a shortcut to quickly increase his cultivation. He was not a person who was willing to waste time, so he quickly closed his eyes and began to absorb the energy. A large amount of energy was refined by Zichen and poured into the 3-meter void space. However, this 3-meter void space seemed to be infinitely large. No matter how much energy he used to fill it, it was not enough. This cultivation room was built by Hunter's Castle with a huge amount of money. There were only 64 cultivation rooms in this huge castle. These 64 cultivation rooms were specially managed by 64 cultivators. Normally, many people use the corporeal cultivation room, but very few use the emptiness realm cultivation room. Occasionally, there would be people who used it, but most of them would use the profound earth cultivation room and the heaven cultivation room. Even if they did, they would rarely use the heaven cultivation room number 1. But today, the heaven cultivation room number 1 was activated. This made the cultivators who had rested for a long time feel a little surprised and want to stretch their muscles and bones. The others had nothing to do, so they gathered together to bet on how long the user of the heaven cultivation room number 1 could last this time. Under normal circumstances, it would last for 3 days. The heaven cultivation room number 1 could also last for 3 days when it was replenished with a law fragment. However, this time, 3 days passed quickly. The heaven cultivation room number 1 was still open, and the manager was replenishing the emptiness realm fragments as quickly as possible. Soon, another 3 days passed. A total of 6 days had passed. During these 6 days, the manager was not idle at all. He was constantly replenishing the emptiness realm fragments that he had consumed. It's been 6 days. How is this possible? Could it be that someone is going to break through inside? The other cultivators were also very surprised. Don't say any more. I'm almost dead tired. I don't know how long he'll last, the manager of the heaven cultivation room number 1 said with a frown. Although the heaven cultivation room number 1 was changed every 3 days. Usually, everyone could only last for 3 days and then automatically leave, leaving him a lot of time to replenish. But now, the other person was not leaving. In order to maintain the same amount of energy, he could only continuously replenish the emptiness realm fragment. Every time the emptiness realm fragment shattered, he would replenish another one. And during these 6 days, the emptiness realm fragments would be depleted every second and every minute. It's your fault for being too idle. Now, just treat it as training. I really don't know what kind of person is staying in the heaven cultivation room number 1, but I really hope he can last a little longer. That's right. It'll be good if he can last a little longer. The others joked. Obviously, they felt a little uncomfortable seeing the manager of the heaven cultivation room number 1 being too comfortable all these years. It was originally a joke, but they did not expect it to become true. For the next month, the entire heaven cultivation room number 1 was operating. Not to mention that the manager had to constantly replenish the emptiness realm fragments. Just the consumption of the emptiness realm fragments was already an astronomical figure. Moreover, the heaven cultivation room number 1, that could last for 3 days after being replenished could only last for 2.5 days after this month. After 2.5 days, all the emptiness realm fragments here would be depleted. This was not because there was a problem with the heaven cultivation room number 1, but because the cultivation speed was too fast. How can this be? If this continues, the resources will be consumed even more. This won't do. Hurry up and inform the master, the manager said as he wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. However, just as he spoke, 2 emptiness realm fragments shattered. He hurriedly replenished them. The others also felt that something was wrong and hurriedly went to report to the master. It should be known that the people who used the cultivation room were all internal members of Hunter's Castle. Even so, they still had to pay a high fee to use it. However, this person had actually used it for an entire month. They did not believe that he had paid a month's worth of usage rights in advance. However, they did not understand why he had not been kicked out when the time was up. Soon, a late-stage corporeal realm expert arrived. "What's going on?" he asked. "Master, look!" the manager said as he pointed at a large replenishment array in front of them. Bang! Bang! The sound of the emptiness realm fragments shattering rang out. They exploded one after another like firecrackers. This situation has already been going on for a month. A lot of resources have already been consumed. The manager said, "What? It's been going on for a month? Who can stay in the heaven cultivation room number 1 for a month?" The late-stage corporeal realm expert was shocked. He then decided to personally go and check it out. When he stood at the entrance of the Heaven Cultivation Room number 1, he immediately saw the Senior Hunter token. It's the Senior Hunter token. It's the newly joined Zichen. Zichen had become a Senior Hunter despite being an early-stage emptiness realm expert. This had already caused a huge commotion. Now, it was not only the people in the castle that were spreading this news, but also the people outside of Huping City. However, what shocked the late-stage corporeal realm expert was that the other party was only an early-stage emptiness realm expert. How could he cultivate so quickly? Chapter 1256. Although it had never happened in the cultivation rooms of Hunter's Castle before, it didn't mean that it had never happened before. Zichen, who was an emptiness realm expert looking forward to a full month in the cultivation room, was something that had never happened before. Just as reality was feeling uneasy, the door to the cultivation room slowly opened and a young man appeared at the doorway. He had heard of the rumors about Zichen in the outside world, but today was the first time he had seen Zichen. This was a young man, a very handsome young man. However, in the Zhanwu continent, being handsome often equated to being strong enough. The aura surging from Zichen's body wasn't strong, but it made people feel a sense of danger and palpitate. At this moment, Zichen, who had let go of his mind and cultivated at full speed, was undoubtedly extraordinary. Behind Zichen was the Sky number 1 cultivation room. This was a place that consumed virtual realm fragments every second, and it was the best cultivation room for the virtual realm. However, as the corporeal realm expert looked behind Zichen, even a late-stage corporeal realm expert like him was clearly astonished. This was because the cultivation room behind Zichen only had an extremely thin amount of spirit energy. It wasn't even as dense as the spirit energy in the other cultivation rooms. This discovery made reality's expression change, and he found it extremely inconceivable. "There's a matter," Zichen said indifferently. The person in front of him had interrupted his cultivation without saying anything, and only kept changing his expression. If he hadn't sensed that the other party was a late-stage reality expert, he definitely wouldn't have been polite. "Oh, it's nothing. It's just that someone came to report that there's something strange about this cultivation room. I was worried that there might be some danger, so I specially came to take a look," Reality hurriedly explained. Zichen's indifferent expression softened as he said, "Thank you for your concern, but I'm just cultivating. There's no big problem with the cultivation room." "It's good that there's no problem. Then I won't disturb your cultivation." After saying this, the late-stage reality politely retreated. In Hunter's castle, as a senior hunter, Zichen's status was higher than that of a late corporeal realm expert. As the stone door slowly closed, Zichen once again sat in the center of the array. In this 1 month of cultivation, Zichen had made great progress. Up until now, Zichen had not encountered a bottleneck, so he had to strive to advance to the next realm. When the late-stage corporeal realm expert returned, all the managers of the cultivation rooms looked at each other. There are no abnormalities in the cultivation room. Someone is cultivating inside, and it looks like he'll be cultivating for a very long time. Go and request for some more resources. Don't delay his cultivation progress, ordered the late-stage corporeal expert. Hearing this, everyone was very surprised. They all asked who it was that was breaking through to the next realm and cultivating inside. It's not just anyone breaking through. It's the veteran hunter that Old Ling recently recruited. He's only at the early stage of the virtual realm. After speaking, the late-stage corporeal expert left, leaving behind a shocked crowd. The fact that an early virtual realm martial artist was able to cultivate for such a long time in Heaven No. 1. Naturally, they were shocked. Rumor has it that this veteran hunter relied on a mysterious treasure to kill a corporeal realm expert. But now, even if he doesn't have a treasure, he's definitely an extremely powerful existence. There were many rumors about Zichen in the outside world, but most people were concerned about that treasure of his. As for Zichen's true strength, there were mixed opinions. As time passed, the number of resources in Heaven No. 1 cultivation room continued to increase. As more and more resources were requested, it naturally alarmed some of the higher-ups. Hunter's Castle was a large organization. Although they did not care about these resources, it was inevitable that they would feel strange if they requested too many resources. After asking around, they learned that Zichen was cultivating in seclusion in Sky No. 1. They were all shocked. Zichen had stayed in Heaven No. 1 cultivation room for an entire year, which had long since broken the previous record. As for that manager, he was also extremely tired. Bang! 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 Suddenly, a series of rapid sounds rang out. This was the sound of a large number of virtual realm fragments being used up. Hearing these sounds, the manager's expression changed drastically. How is this possible? It was just filled up. For an entire year, there were several people helping out here. When they saw more and more virtual realm fragments exploding, their expressions turned strange. This situation did not make sense at all. Bang, 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 bang. The rapid sounds rang out again. A large number of virtual realm fragments disappeared. In a short period of time, half of the fragments had disappeared. No one had the time to check for any abnormalities. They could only continue to fill up the virtual realm fragments. 3 people filled up the fragments, but they could barely keep up with the rate of consumption. Is he about to break through? Hurry up and request for more resources. We need to get more. The manager wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and shouted towards the outside. The amount of resources Zichen had consumed in the past year was almost comparable to the total amount of resources they had consumed in their years of cultivation. They had been wondering why Zichen had not broken through after using so many resources. They had never imagined that something would happen here today. Soon, more resources were sent over. 2 corporeal realm supervisors also came along. When they saw the continuous consumption of virtual realm fragments, they were also very surprised. This Zichen is indeed extraordinary, the 2 of them exclaimed. At this moment, Zichen's body had disappeared from Heaven No. 1 room. What was left was a 3-meter-wide virtual space. The virtual space suddenly appeared in the cultivation room. It was like a passage to another world or a bottomless black hole. An endless stream of energy entered the virtual space and disappeared like a clay ox entering the sea. As if it felt that the energy replenishment was too little, the virtual space started to vibrate. Then, an extremely strong suction force came from it. Under this suction force, the virtual power in the entire room entered the virtual space like a long river. A simple devouring by the virtual space caused more than 70% of the virtual realm fragments at the end of the array to explode. As for the remaining 30%, it was impossible to maintain normal operation. Even the corporeal realm supervisors who came to investigate were shocked by this phenomenon, let alone the virtual realm experts. "Hurry up and fill it up," the manager of the virtual realm shouted. A large number of virtual realm fragments were controlled by their spiritual senses and entered into the grooves. However, 70% of the fragments had disappeared all of a sudden. It was undoubtedly a daydream for the three of them to quickly fill up the grooves. Oh my God, what is Zichin doing? How is this absorbing energy? This is clearly plundering. Two shocked corporeal realm supervisors consciously joined in. A total of 5 people worked together to catch up with the consumption. The batch of resources that had just been sent in was quickly gone. Someone else went out to apply for more. It's gone again. How is this possible? The old man in charge of guarding the resources immediately widened his eyes. The resources he had just given were the largest expenditure in history. However, it was gone in such a short period of time. "There's still a little left, but it won't last long," the virtual realm supervisor said anxiously. "Do you know how many resources you just took? That's an amount that hasn't been used for an entire year. Now it's gone." "It's not like we used it. It's the one in heaven number 1 who used it. It said that he's at a critical moment in breaking through," the virtual realm supervisor said. Although the old man was in charge of managing and controlling many resources, he couldn't make the decision if the amount was too large. Moreover, this matter was too shocking. Over the past year, several people had come to investigate him. It was said that he had used up too many resources. The old man became hesitant. There were too many resources to apply for, and he couldn't make the decision. Give him as many resources as he wants." Suddenly, an indifferent voice sounded from outside. Wade walked in with a steward's token in his hand. "This is Elderling's token. Do you recognize it? Elderling has already gone. Give him the resources immediately," Wade said. I recognize it. The old man didn't expect that this matter would alarm Elderling. Cold sweat immediately appeared on his forehead. However, he didn't bother to wipe it off. He hurriedly opened the resource warehouse and took out twice as many resources as before. He didn't even have time to register them. The virtual realm supervisor took the resources and was about to leave when he suddenly paused. He turned around and said, "I'm afraid these won't last long. You better prepare some more." When the old man heard this, he almost fainted. Elderling's arrival in the Heaven number 1 formation filled everyone with great pressure. Elderling didn't even say a word when he arrived. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Elderling looked at the exploding virtual realm fragments in front of him and didn't say a word. No one knew what he was thinking. After a while, Elderling opened his mouth and said in a calm voice, "When did this happen?" "Sir, it was 2 hours ago. It hasn't happened before." "It hasn't happened in a year." A strange light flashed in Elderling's eyes. "A year. It seems that he has broken through. But this commotion," then Elderling smiled bitterly. He was very surprised by Zichen's consumption. Elderling had stepped into the domain realm a long time ago and had walked very far in this realm. Normally, virtual realm fragments were nothing in front of him, and he didn't care about these things. However, today, when he saw large amounts of virtual realm fragments disappear, even the corners of his mouth twitched. 9,999 virtual realm fragments were used to maintain this formation. Under normal circumstances, it would be used up in 3 days. If these resources were converted into law fragments, it would be 1 million. One had to admit that it was a big deal to use up 1 million in 3 days. However, each time the virtual realm fragments were filled, they could only last for a short while. In a short while, 1 million resources were used up. Elderling had only been here for a short time, but 10 million resources had already been used up. What technique is Zichen cultivating? Why is it that breaking through a sub-realm consumes so much resources? Elder Ling was very puzzled about this. It had to be said that Zichen was very lucky this time. He had broken through in just 1 year, and it was all because of the Heaven Number 1 cultivation room. If it had been any other time, Zichen would have needed more than 10 years to break through. However, during this period, the consumption of this huge amount of resources was something that Zichen couldn't afford. Just as everyone was clicking their tongues because Zichen was consuming too much resources too quickly, Zichen was currently in his own 3-meter virtual realm. However, was it really only 3 meters? Chapter 1257. Zichen flashed into the 3-meter void space. At a glance, Zichen saw a world. This was a boundless world. It was still illusory at the moment, but it was also independent. The void space of the void boundary was an illusory space created with the entire continent as the foundation. Zichen's 3-meter void boundary was attached to the Zhanwu continent. But the infinite illusory space in the 3-meter void boundary was a real independent existence. This phenomenon puzzled Zichen. However, being in this illusory space, he could feel that it was very unstable. Zichen looked up at the sky. This place was illusory, but he could see waves of power merging into this illusory space. The originally unstable space slowly stabilized because of the infusion of these forces. However, only a small area was stabilized. A lot of resources were needed to completely stabilize this infinite space. Zichen did not have so many resources on him at the moment, but this was not in his consideration at the moment. With a thought, a wave of power rushed out. When this power reached the outside world, it turned into a suction force and returned with a strong force. Zichen, who had entered the illusory space, was still conscious. He knew that he was still in the sky, room number 1, because he had sensed a bottleneck and was showing signs of breaking through. He had been inspired to enter the illusory space. The moment he entered the void realm, Zichen had already broken through. He was now at the middle stage of the void realm. However, this realm was still unstable and needed a lot of resources to stabilize this realm. This was what Zichen thought, so he needed resources now, and these resources needed to be provided by the sky, room number 1. Zichen simply thought that the premise of stabilizing his realm was to stabilize this illusory world. Therefore, he stood here and watched this world stabilize so that he could completely stabilize his realm. Little did he know that Zichen's idea had caused a great disturbance in the entire Hunter's Castle. As the steward of Hunter's Castle, Old Ling's words carried a lot of weight. So even though he was standing here for a moment and watching Heaven Number 1 swallow tens of millions of resources, he still had a faint smile on his face. The fact that Zichen had consumed a lot of resources to break through proved that Zichen had great potential and that he had a good eye for talent. That was indeed what he thought, and the reality realms who rushed over from all directions also complimented him in the same manner. Very quickly, another 2 hours passed. Zichen had already consumed more than 100 million resources. Seeing that the consumption rate of the array formation did not decrease, and instead increased, the crowd's praises gradually decreased. But Ling Ling still had a faint smile on his face. Wasn't it just 100 million worth of resources? It was only equivalent to the lowest level, worst and worst realm fragment. That was how Ling Tianyi always comforted himself. In next to no time, the second region fragment was consumed. The third domain fragment was gone, and so were the fourth and the fifth. As time passed, not only did the Heaven Number 1's devouring speed not slow down, it actually became faster. 5 region fragments were equivalent to 500 million worth of resources. 500 million, a whole 500 million. Even an idiot could forcibly ascend to the reality realm because of this amount of resources. But Zichen had consumed 500 million worth of resources in just 1 day and 1 night. Even so, such a huge amount of resources had not helped him break through. The surrounding praises had long since disappeared, and the scene had become very quiet. The only sound that could be heard was the mechanical sound of the void realm fragments being placed. No one even dared to breathe loudly. The smile on Old Ling's face had disappeared at some point. Both outside and outside Heaven Number 1 were full of cultivators. These people were silent and did not say a word. But everyone was waiting for Heaven Number 1 to finish devouring and for Senior Hunter Zichen, who had consumed a huge amount of resources, to appear. But unfortunately, Zichen still did not appear when the 11th region fragment had been consumed the next day. 11 region fragments represented 1,100,000,000. This was Zichen's consumption in the past 2 days. No one could remain calm when faced with such a huge number. Although using 1,100,000,000 without permission was not Old Ling's limit, using it on a Void Realm expert was enough to attract the attention of many people. Once someone noticed, there would naturally be dissatisfaction. After all, no one would be stupid enough to waste resources on a Void Realm expert that they did not know or had never even seen before. Old Ling, Lord Wu requests your presence. A human voice finally rang out amidst the mechanical sounds. A reality realm expert walked in from outside, stood in front of Old Ling, and spoke respectfully. Old Ling did not speak. He only looked forward and watched as the fragments exploded one after another. He watched as they were placed in front of him and then exploded again. He had been watching like this for 2 days and 2 nights. The atmosphere around him had also become extremely oppressive because of these 2 days and 2 nights. Old Ling, Lord Wu requests your immediate departure. The reality realm expert spoke again. The corner of his mouth twitched as he looked at the speed at which everyone was exchanging fragments. He's finally here. Old Ling sighed and finally spoke for the first time in 2 days. When he finished speaking, Old Ling turned and left. The reality realm followed. Everyone else's movements slowed because of Old Ling's departure. They seemed to feel a sense of relief. However, they were also very confused and did not know whether they should give up or not. The Sky Number 1 formation is not allowed to stop until I return. Old Ling's voice rang out from outside. The oppressive atmosphere disappeared with Old Ling's departure. I say, this Zichen is too scary. Is he trying to break through to the domain realm? More than 1 billion worth of resources have been used up in 2 days. Even plundering can't be done so quickly. This kid is really lucky to have Old Ling's support. Lord Wu rarely appears. He must have asked Old Ling to go this time because of Zichen. I'm afraid Old Ling won't have an easy time this time. Everyone was discussing spiritedly, but their hands never stopped moving. This time, there was no need for them to give orders. Someone would continuously send resources over. The old man who had been in charge of managing the resources had fainted because he couldn't bear the pressure. Thus, a new person was in charge. However, it was obvious that the pressure on this person had increased with expenditure of hundreds of millions of resources. This was especially so when he found out that Old Ling had been called away by Lord Wu. This was because if the negotiations between the 2 parties were not good, then they would be in trouble. When Old Ling walked into the meeting room, Zichen was still in his infinitely large void realm space. He was firmly watching the entire world stabilize and waiting for his realm to stabilize. However, it seemed that he had absorbed a little too many resources. Everyone, why have you called me here? Old Ling walked into the meeting room. There were already 3 people inside. All 3 of them were old men, and their strength was undoubtedly in the domain realm. Ling Xing, don't ask questions you already know the answer to. You should know our purpose, an old man in a red robe said coldly. He didn't look very good. Old Ling was Ling Xing. When he heard this, he smiled faintly and said, You must be here for the senior hunter. Humph. Investing billions of resources on an emptiness realm expert? What are you thinking, Ling Xing? Are you out of your mind? Another person said in an unfriendly tone. Ling Xing retorted, Have you ever seen an emptiness realm expert defeat hundreds of corporeal realm experts. That wasn't his true strength. It was because of a supreme treasure, the old man in the seat said. The old man sitting at the head of the table spoke, but his tone was relatively friendly. This was Lord Wu. It's true that he can't do without a supreme treasure. However, what he really relied on was his personal strength, Ling Xing said. Let's not talk about strength for now. Let's talk about resources. Although Hunter's Castle has countless resources, it's impossible to provide such a large amount of help to an emptiness realm expert. Let's stop and let him come out. Then let him do missions in return, the old man in the red robe said again. That's right. The resources will stop here, the second old man said. He's at a critical moment in his breakthrough. It's unreasonable to stop the resources now. As for the missions, we can wait until he breaks through, Ling Xing said. Seeing that the old man in red was about to speak again, Ling Xing added, Moreover, I have the authority to use resources. Before he reaches my limit, as long as he can absorb, I will continue to provide. The two old men's expressions changed. Anger immediately appeared on their faces. However, Lord Wu said, Ling Xing, do you know what you are doing? If you don't get any return on your investment, I'm afraid that no one will bear this loss for you. Ling Xing said faintly, I don't need anyone to bear this loss for me. My authority is 10 billion. If this amount is exceeded, I will automatically stop. If the investment doesn't get any return, I will automatically resign from this position and fill the gap of 10 billion resources. Lord Wu was stunned when he heard this. He immediately said, Ling Xing, why do you have to do this? Ling Xing smiled and said, I think he's worth it. After saying this, Ling Xing directly left. The end of the discussion was the worst result that Ling Xing thought was possible. This was because no one in Hunter's Castle supported him now. This time he directly walked to the resource collection point and said indifferently, Withdraw 10 billion resources. The resource manager was shocked, but Elder Ling did have the authority, so he could only do as he was told. For the Hunter's Castle, they still had 10 billion in resources. Elder Ling took the remaining 10 billion resources and directly came here. He would personally oversee this place until the 10 billion resources were used up. Ziqin, as long as you can absorb, I will definitely provide all the resources, even if it means that I have to go bankrupt. Before entering, Elder Ling had already made up his mind. For Ziqin, for himself, or to vent his anger, the atmosphere that had just calmed down became oppressive again. Then, everyone began to mechanically place the resources. 2 billion, 3 billion, for billion. In the end, Ziqin's absorption rate was still at 1 billion per day. There was no obvious increase or decrease in absorption rate. After a few days, 10 billion resources were used up. When the last batch of virtual realm fragments was placed, the surrounding air was oppressive to the extreme. Everyone's mood was also extremely tense. Chapter 1258. In just a dozen days, 10 billion resources had been consumed by a single emptiness realm expert. Almost no one would believe this. Even though everyone had seen it with their own eyes, they still felt as if they were dreaming. Although Ling Xing hadn't said anything, his silence gave everyone an enormous amount of pressure. If it weren't for their duties, they probably wouldn't have been able to hold on and would have fainted a long time ago. They had never imagined that they would get tired of receiving so many resources that they would feel like vomiting. Everyone's attention was focused on these resources. If these resources were absorbed, there wouldn't be any left for Ziqin. Providing 10 billion resources to a single emptiness realm expert was simply unimaginable. Wade walked in from outside. He walked in front of Ling Xing and nodded at him. He had already left earlier to exchange for a lot of emptiness realm fragments. This time, Ling Xing was determined to help Ziqin. Originally, there were many early corporeal realm experts guarding Sky Number 1. However, as Ziqin consumed more and more resources, these early corporeal realm experts had been replaced by mid-corporeal realm experts. However, as Ziqin consumed more than 8 billion resources, The mid-corporeal realm experts were replaced by late corporeal realm experts. Moreover, there were 30 to 40 of them. All of them were eyeing sky number 1 covetously. At the end of the formation, the atmosphere was extremely oppressive. Because of the final amount of resources, the atmosphere had reached its limit. The air was dry and oppressive, as if it was filled with gunpowder. The slightest spark would ignite and explode. Everyone's eyes were glued to the 9,000 plus emptiness realm fragments within the formation. Phew! After a few breaths, someone let out a sigh of relief. This sound caused the oppressive atmosphere to somewhat loosen. Phew! Phew! Soon after, a series of exhalations were heard. The tense and oppressive atmosphere suddenly relaxed because of these few breaths. The 9,000 plus emptiness realm fragments in front of them were still there after more than 10 breaths of time. Not a single fragment had decreased during this time. This was a world of difference compared to the dozens or even hundreds of fragments that were consumed every breath. Some people let out a sigh of relief, but others didn't relax because there was no guarantee that these fragments would all explode in the next moment. Time seemed to slow down at this moment. 1 minute felt as long as a few days. A minute later, the emptiness realm fragment on the formation was still there, and the entire formation showed no signs of being activated. Everyone's expression slowly relaxed. 2 minutes passed. 3 minutes passed. At this moment, every minute felt extremely long. 5 minutes passed. Seeing that the fragments were no longer decreasing, everyone was completely relieved. Then they cheered loudly or gasped for breath. Phew! Wade also let out a huge sigh of relief, then carefully glanced at Ling Xing. Ling Xing's expression was still indifferent. Wade thought, as expected of an adult, his mental fortitude is great. Little did he know that Ling Xing's back was already drenched in cold sweat. That was 10 billion worth of resources. Although it was not a lot, it was used on an early virtual realm expert. This kind of investment would make anyone nervous. Zichen no longer absorbed the energy, and the spell formation no longer operated. It seemed that the high frequency of operation had pushed the spell formation to its limit. Now that it was resting, the spell formation also needed to rest. It was obvious that Zichen had finished his breakthrough. However, the door of heaven number 1 was still tightly shut. The hunting order that belonged to Zichen was still outside. The hunting order was still glowing, proving that Zichen was still alive. At this moment, not only was Zichen alive, but he was also living very well. He was still standing in his own emptiness realm space. This space had become stable. Although it was still illusory, it was no longer empty. There were some other things in it. These things could be called power. There was red power, black power, white power, gold power, silver power, green power, blue power. There were all kinds of colors. Zichen was very familiar with these powers. This was because he had comprehended them one by one in the past. Because of these powers, he had also experienced many lightning tribulations. These were all rule power. At this moment, these powers were either scattered or merged, filling this boundless world. This boundless, illusory world had also reached an end because of the appearance of these powers. Therefore, Zichen felt that his realm had stabilized. However, he still felt that the resources he had absorbed this time were a little too much. But was it just a little too much? After breaking through, Zichen was very happy that such a change had occurred in the illusory space again. In the heaven number 1 cultivation room, the 3-meter illusory space still existed. It was as normal as before. The only unusual thing was that there were some powers of various colors circulating in it. In the next moment, a person appeared in the 3-meter space. It was Zichen. Zichen walked out of the space and arrived at the cultivation room. The 3-meter space behind him disappeared. Zichen began to sense the changes in his body. His realm had increased, and a lot of power had entered his body. Zichen's physical strength had increased again, and his essence, energy, and spirit had naturally transformed again. He had reached the perfect limit of his current realm. Zi-Chin was very satisfied with the changes in his body. As he sensed his realm, Zi-Chin had a look of surprise on his face. I'm actually at the peak of the mid-stage. I'm only one step away from the late stage. He had originally thought that his breakthrough had only stabilized the mid-stage. He had never imagined that he would suddenly climb to the peak and be only one step away from the late stage. Zi-Chen was very happy and excited about this. It was obvious that this breakthrough had saved him a lot of time. Soon after, he unfurled the lightning wings on his back and began to increase his realm. However, the lightning wings did not increase by an entire realm as he had imagined. Zi-Chen's realm was still at the early stage of the corporeal stage. The only difference was that his original 2 meters had now become 3 meters. His realm had not increased, and his corporeal realm had only increased by 1 meter. However, Zi-Chen felt that his power had increased by a lot. If it had been a little difficult for him to deal with a late-stage, corporeal stage expert before, and he had needed to join forces with the Black Eagle, then with the increase of 1 meter, dealing with a late-stage, corporeal stage expert would be relatively easier. As for whether or not he could slaughter them at will, Zi-Chen did not dare to be certain. His power had already reached its limit, so there was no point in absorbing more. Moreover, Zi-Chen could clearly feel that the next step was not to increase his power, but to change the illusory space. Zi-Chen needed to explore this change himself. There was no point in staying here any longer. Therefore, he decided to leave. Creak, creak. As the door opened, Zi-Chen immediately saw a group of people standing outside. No, there were a lot of people. These people's expressions were obviously very nervous, but also very expectant. The moment Zi-Chen appeared, they all looked at Zi-Chen, and their expressions became guarded. What are you all doing here? Although Zi-Chen did not sense any hostility from them, he could still sense an unusual aura. At this moment he frowned and asked. The group of late-stage corporeal experts were stunned, but did not know what to say. They were only here to keep watch. But now that Zi-Chen had appeared, they could not possibly say that they were here to keep watch. Zi-Chen, Lord Wu requests your presence. A corporeal expert walked out from behind the group. Lord Wu? Which Lord Wu? Zi-Chen frowned again. He did not know any Lord Wu. Follow me. Elderling is here too. The newcomer clearly had no intention of explaining to Zi-Chen and motioned for Zi-Chen to follow. Zi-Chen knew Elderling. He nodded, took his hunting token, and left with the corporeal expert. Behind Zi-Chen, the group of late-stage corporeal experts watched Zi-Chen leave with complicated gazes. 10 billion. That means he consumed 10 billion worth of resources in a dozen days. That's 10 billion worth of resources. Even if he plundered them, he wouldn't be able to take them all. How did he do it? The group of late-stage corporeal experts clearly knew something and sighed. Suddenly, one of them asked, Did you guys sense his cultivation level just now? What is it? I don't think so. Yeah, we actually didn't sense his cultivation level. Yeah, we didn't pay attention before. Now that you mention it, it seems that we really didn't sense it. As Zi-Chen followed the corporeal experts to the meeting, he discovered many cultivators along the way. These people were all looking at him with very strange gazes. Their gazes were filled with shock, astonishment, confusion, suspicion, and so on. It was very complicated and very strange. Zi-Chen touched his face and looked at the cultivators around him. Then he looked at the corporeal expert in front of him and asked, Is there something on my face? The corporeal expert snorted and said unhappily, They're not looking at your face. They're looking at your person. There's something wrong with my person. There's a big problem. The corporeal expert's attitude was the big problem. Zi-Chen ignored him and decided to wait until he saw Elder Ling before asking. Soon, Zi-Chen arrived outside the meeting room. The corporeal expert left after bringing him here. Zi-Chen went forward and knocked on the door. Come in. However, just as Zi-Chen approached, Elderling's voice came from inside. Zichen pushed the door open and entered. There were 4 old men sitting inside. Zichen greets the lords. Zichen bowed. The 4 old men were carefully sizing up Zichen as he bowed. They looked very carefully and even used their spiritual senses. 2 of them were extremely rude as they scanned Zichen's body. They seemed to want to force their way into Zichen's body. The powerful spiritual senses, coupled with the pressure, caused Zichen's face to pale. Buzz! Under the immense pressure, a golden light suddenly began to tremble around Zichen's body. Then the golden light enveloped Zichen's body like an eggshell, protecting him, blocking the 4 spiritual senses outside. The 4 old men's faces were immediately filled with astonishment. Ling Xing first laughed loudly, then asked, Zichen, did you break through? What's your current realm? The other 3 old men retracted their spiritual senses. 2 of them had unnatural expressions because even with their high realms, they couldn't detect Zichen's true realm. The peak of the mid-virtual realm, Zichen said respectfully. What? The peak of the mid-virtual realm? You spent 10 billion resources and only advanced by 1 realm? Chapter 1259. 10 billion resources? What 10 billion resources? Zichen was stunned by the old man's words. He didn't understand what he meant. Seeing Zichen's confused expression, Ling Xing laughed bitterly and explained, It took you 12 days to break through the bottleneck. During these 12 days, you used up a total of 10 billion law fragments, which is equivalent to 100 million void realm fragments. Ah! Zichen's face immediately filled with shock. 10 billion resources? What kind of concept was that? Zichen had never thought about it before. Previously, he'd felt that he'd used up quite a bit of resources when he'd stabilized his void realm. However, he'd only felt that it was a bit excessive. He hadn't expected it to be this much. However, putting aside the fact that Zichen had used up a lot of resources, just the fact that he'd stabilized his void realm and reached the peak of a new realm in 12 days was actually worth it. If it had been any other time, Zichen might not have been able to break through even after several decades. However, he'd only used 12 days in exchange for several decades. It was all worth it. Of course, this was for Zichen. To Hunter's Castle, this investment was obviously a huge loss. 10 billion resources was enough for a pig to break through to the corporeal realm. However, Zichen had only advanced by a small realm. Zichen was extremely shocked when he heard this news. When he saw the anger on the 2 old men's faces, he felt a little guilty and remorseful. He also had an apologetic expression on his face. He'd felt that he'd used up a lot of resources this time, but he hadn't expected it to be this much. It really was an unintentional mistake. Ling Xing looked at the self-blaming Zichen and waved his hand, saying, Zichen, you've used up all the resources within my authority. I'm sponsoring you of my own volition. You don't need to feel guilty. Ling Xing's words attracted 2 dissatisfied gazes, but he didn't care. Thank you for your guidance, Elderling. Zichen bowed to Elderling and thanked him gratefully. How do you feel after breaking through? Elderling asked again. Zichen stretched his muscles and said, I feel very good. 10 billion resources is just a good. A cold laugh came from the side. Zichen corrected him. It's not good, it's very good. Ling Xing said, It's fine as long as you feel good. However, your realm is still too low. Try to increase your realm by 1 or break through to the corporeal realm as soon as possible. As for the cultivation room, you can use it whenever you want. Xing seemed to have thought of something. He paused for a moment and said, However, you're not allowed to occupy the training room after you make a breakthrough. Clearly, Ling Xing could only provide 1 billion in resources, but not a second one. That was because the consumption of resources was simply too frightening. Zichen had an apologetic look on his face again, and then he thanked him again. Thank you for your concern, Elder. It's just that the cultivation room isn't of much use to me now. My realm is very stable. After familiarizing myself with it for 2 days, I plan to accept some missions. Ling Xing frowned. Accept the mission now. Humph, Ling Xing, the hunters of our hunter's castle have all been baptized by blood and fire. There has never been an obedient child among us. The red-robed old man snorted and said, Furthermore, he used up so many resources. Shouldn't he do some missions to make up for it? Ling Xing's face was filled with anger when he heard this. He shouted at the red-robed old man, Ming Zhu, that's enough. I already said that I am willing to give Zichen the resources. Ming Zhu sneered. But those resources are hunters' castles, not yours. It's just 10 billion. At most. I'll just give it to Hunter's Castle. Those resources will be considered my personal property. Lord Wu frowned when he heard the two arguing. All right, both of you shut up. The two old men argued until their faces turned red. Then they sat down and ignored each other. Zichen, on the other hand, turned to look at Sir Wu, who had spoken, and said gratefully and solemnly, Zichen thanks the Hunter's Castle for providing me with the resources. I, Zichen, will remember the 10 billion resources today, and I will definitely return it double in the future. That's 10 billion worth of resources. How are you going to return it? What are you going to use to return it double? Ming Zhu said coldly. This time, Zichen did feel guilty. However, the old man's aggressive attitude made him extremely reluctant. He responded with the same indifferent attitude. I can stand outside the city and kill corporeal cultivators to return it. I can return at least 10,000 with one slash. I can also kill spirit-level beasts. Isn't it just 20 billion? As long as I, Zichen, am alive, I will definitely return it. Enough, Mingzhu. Shut up. Hearing this, Lord Wu's eyes flashed. He then shouted at Mingzhu, who was about to speak again. The latter obviously didn't expect Lord Wu to have such an attitude. His expression changed, but he closed his mouth in the end. With a cold face, Lord Wu looked at the other old man. The other old man naturally stopped talking. He then turned to Zichen and said slowly, Zichen, since Hunter's Castle nurtured you, they naturally have no intention of asking you to return or compensate the resources. As a senior hunter of Hunter's Castle has the obligation to nurture you. You don't have to take it to heart. I called you here today for no other reason than to ask about your realm and how you feel after breaking through. Of course, I also wanted to see how you, a virtual realm cultivator, can consume 10 billion worth of resources. I am very satisfied after seeing it. I have a small request, or you can treat it as a request. I hope you can agree to it. Lord Wu's prestige was obviously the highest among the four of them. However, his tone was very kind, and he even used the word request in the end. The other three's expressions changed. Zichen was a little flattered. He quickly bowed and said, Sir, what are your orders? As long as Zichen is able to do it, I will do my best. Lord Wu smiled and said, Don't be nervous. It's not a big deal. I just want to add the words Huping City and a number on your token to prove that you're a senior hunter of Huping City's Hunter's Castle. What do you think? Zichen said without thinking, I'm a senior hunter of Huping City. Of course, it's not a problem. So you agree. Lord Wu seemed a little happy. Zichen nodded. Ling Xing only nodded slowly. However, the expressions of the other two changed drastically. Placing a mark on the hunter's medallion meant that the person could only be a citizen of Huping City in the future. However, this kind of situation only targeted cultivators with great potential. These people were destined to be extraordinary in the future when they were young. Once they had the mark, all of their achievements would be related to their former city. When they were mentioned, they would naturally talk about their city. For example, if Zichen became powerful in a few years' time and shook up the entire Shantian prefecture, the entire Huping City would become famous because of him. Although this sounded like an empty title, it was glory in the eyes of many people. There were around 10 senior hunters in Huping City's Hunter's Castle, but only 3 of them received this treatment. Zi Qin was the 4th. From this, it could be seen how much Lord Wu valued Zi Qin. Zi Qin handed over the token very straightforwardly. There were some other procedures to be completed after the mark was added, so Zi Qin was taken away by reality. Only the 4 old men were left in the meeting room. After a moment of silence, Lord Wu spoke. His voice was slow but firm. This matter must be kept a secret. I don't want anyone else to know anything about it. This was an order that the 3 of them had to obey. After nodding, Ming Zhu took the old man away to handle this matter. Soon, only the 2 of them were left in the hall. Ling Xing asked in confusion, "Why?" "What do you mean, why? Giving a mark in the virtual realm seems to have never happened in Huping City before," Ling Xing said. "But we've never encountered a virtual realm expert who consumes 10 billion resources." Lord Wu smiled faintly. "I don't believe that you would give Zi Qin a mark just because he consumes too many resources. You should know that when the 3 of you came to me, although you were neutral, you didn't want me to continue wasting resources," Ling Xing said as he stared into Lord Wu's eyes. Lord Wu smiled and said, "That's right. At first, I didn't agree, but I didn't intend to interfere. However, as Zi Qin consumes more and more resources, and as I read more information about Zi Qin, I suddenly remembered something." "What is it?" Ling Xing asked. "It's about the 3-meter virtual realm. It's an ancient book. I only glanced at it briefly and thought it was nonsense. You don't have to read it. I've already burned the book." Lord Wu stopped Ling Xing. "Why?" Ling Xing asked again. "Because we need to keep it a secret. From now on, Zi Qin will be the true core member of Hunter's Castle 108 in Huping City. Before he grows up, Hunter's Castle is obligated to nurture him with all its might." After walking out of the meeting room, Zi Qin finally understood the reason for everyone's complicated and strange expressions. Actually, he had mixed feelings about it too. When he first heard about the 10 billion resources, he was still in disbelief. How could he have consumed 10 billion? After all, he had only managed to obtain close to 100 million resources after decades of plundering. However, in just 12 short days, he had consumed 10 billion resources. After seeing Wade, Zi Qin finally believed that this was true. After all, Wade had seen it with his own eyes. When Wade told Elderling that he was willing to help him despite the pressure, he was very grateful. Zi Qin returned to his residence and began to get used to his increased strength. Because he couldn't stand those strange gazes, Zi Qin stayed for 10 full days. After completely familiarizing himself with his new strength, Zi Qin left his residence and headed to the mission hall. Along the way, Zi Qin encountered some hunters, but the strange expressions from before were all gone. They either ignored Zi Qin or nodded kindly. It was as if they had forgotten about the 10 billion resources. Zi Qin was a little puzzled by this. Chapter 1260. When he arrived at the hall, Zi Qin didn't see Wade, so he could only look at the missions in person. There were many missions in the hall. There were all kinds of missions, such as escorts, requests for purchases, and some team missions. For example, a virtual realm team was to hunt a general-level beast, while a reality team was to explore a secret place and try to hunt a spirit-level beast. There were also people who wanted to buy a certain spirit herb or a rare species. There were many missions on the mission board. Zi Qin bypassed the virtual realm missions and went to the reality missions section. Not long after Zi Qin arrived, Ling Xing heard the news and rushed over. "You want to take a mission?" Zi Qin turned around and saw Elderling. He bowed to the other party and then nodded. "I told you, you don't have to care about those resources. If you need more, I can give you more. You don't have to take risks for resources. Just focus on improving your strength," said Elderling. "It's not about resources. Resources are useless to me now. My cultivation seems to have reached a bottleneck. I need to go out and fight and then find a solution. Of course, it's good to get some resources." Seeing Zi Qin's determined eyes, Ling Xing nodded and stopped trying to dissuade him. However, when he thought about Zi Chen's identity, he was still a little worried. He handed the hunting token to Zi Chen and said, "This is your hunting token." Zi Chen accepted the hunting order. Ling Xing then handed Zi Chen a jade slip and said, "You can be considered one of my people now. This jade slip is for you. There's a seal of my power inside. It can resist the attack of a domain realm cultivator at a critical moment, but it can only be used 3 times at most. Take this jade slip to the precious artifact pavilion. There will be people there who will arrange for you to go out and train." Elder Ling was obviously concerned about his safety, so Zi Chen took the token and thanked him again. He wanted to go out and hunt beasts. There was no point in looking at the missions here, so Zi Chen decided to go to the treasure pavilion immediately. He still had tens of millions of resources on him, so he needed to go to the treasure pavilion to see if there was anything good. After more than a year, Zi Chen left the hunter's castle. However, as soon as he appeared, Zi Chen felt that someone was following him. He hadn't sensed the other party's presence and had only relied on his perception. However, in this world, perception was sometimes more useful than spiritual thoughts. It's been more than a year. It seems that there are still people who haven't given up. They are really persistent. Zi Chen shook his head and walked straight to the precious weapon pavilion. When Zi Chen appeared in the precious tool pavilion again, it caused a small commotion. Many service staff came forward and politely led Zi Chen in. It was clear that after a year, not only did they not forget Zi Chen, but they also remembered Zi Chen even more deeply. The elegance of that slash had long been rumored to be miraculous. Among them, Xiaoli stood in front of Zi Chen excitedly. Every time Zi Chen looked at her, she would subconsciously avoid Zi Chen's eyes. At the same time, she appeared very flustered. A year had passed, and Zi Chen was no longer who he used to be. Just his status as a senior hunter was enough to allow him to live a better life than many realms. Finally, Xiaoli plucked up her courage and asked, "Sir, what do you want to buy?" Zi Chen smiled and said, "Just call me Zi Chen. I'm not used to calling you sir." The courage that Xiaoli had just plucked up dissipated in the face of Zi Chen's warm smile. She blushed and subconsciously lowered her head. "Let me see what's here first." Zi Chen walked forward. After a slight hesitation, Xiaoli followed him. As for the others, they tactfully dispersed. Because he had weapons refined by the cauldron spirit, Zi Chen didn't need weapons. He walked directly to the place where medicinal pills were sold. There were many types of medicinal pills. Some were used to recover energy, some were used to heal injuries, and some were used to expel special edicts. Xiaoli stood beside Zi Chen. This time, she appeared very reserved. "Oh, right, apart from buying things, I'm also here to look for someone." As he spoke, Zi Chen took out the jade slip that Ling Lao had given him and showed it to Xiaoli. Xiaoli said with a blank face, "Looking for someone." She clearly didn't recognize the jade slip, but soon after she said, "Wait a moment, I'll go look for Sister Hong." Shang Guanhong was in the pavilion. After hearing the news, she quickly arrived. Shang Guanhong was dressed in white as usual. A hint of surprise appeared on her beautiful face when she saw Zi Chen. When she saw the jade slip in Zi Chen's hand, she asked, "Did Ling Lao ask you to come?" Zi Chen nodded. He said with some surprise, "The person Ling Lao asked me to look for, it can't be you, right?" Shang Guanhong smiled and didn't say anything. She then took out a hunting token and showed it to Zi Chen. The instant he saw the hunting token, Zi Chen's face was immediately filled with astonishment. That was because it was also a senior hunter's token. Moreover, the most astonishing thing was that this token also had an imprint on it. It could be said that this token was exactly the same as the one in Zi Chen's hand. The only difference was the names on the tokens. Why? Are you surprised to see a senior hunter's token? Don't think that you're the only one in Huping City. Shang Guanhong's face had a rare trace of craftiness. Zi Chen smiled awkwardly and said, I'm indeed a little surprised. This time I plan to go out for training and kill some spirit-level battle beasts. Ling Lao asked me to find you and ask you to arrange for me. Hearing this, Shang Guanhong looked at Zichen seriously and said, "It seems that Ling Lao takes good care of you. By the way, it's said that something big happened in the castle recently, but I couldn't find out anything about it. You should know about it, right? Or rather, it has something to do with you." Zichen spread his hands and smiled helplessly. Shang Guanhong was a little unwilling. She looked around and said, "Okay, come with me first." Shang Guanhong brought Zichen to a room. There was a faint fragrance in the room, but it wasn't her boudoir. It was just an ordinary reception room. "Okay, now tell me what happened," Shang Guanhong asked curiously. "I don't know." Zichen shook his head and said, "You don't know?" Shang Guanhong looked up and down at Zichen. "I've been in seclusion all this time until I broke through yesterday," Zichen said. "I don't believe it," Shang Guanhong said. "Why not?" "Intuition, intuition." Shang Guanhong reached out to Zichen and said, "Give it to me." "What? Token? Let me see your hunting token. This thing can't be casually shown to others. I just showed you mine. Why don't you show me yours? Besides, Ling Lao asked you to come here to prove that we're all on the same side. What's wrong with showing your own people?" Helpless, Zichen took out the token and handed it to Shang Guanhong. The moment the other party saw the token, she saw the abnormality of the token. She looked at Zichen with a strange gaze. "You said it's none of your business. Then why did you leave a mark on the token? What's so strange about that? Didn't you have it on your token too?" Shang Guanhong gritted her teeth. She seemed a little angry and said, "That's different. I left the mark when I was in the corporeal realm. But you only... What realm are you in now? Why can't I feel it?" "Middle virtual realm. It's no big deal." Zichen released his own aura. "Peak virtual realm, middle virtual realm. In just 1 year, you broke through the middle virtual realm, and even reached the peak. You still dare to say that what happened in the castle had nothing to do with you? Tell me what happened," Shang Guanhong asked. Zichen once again felt the terrifying sharpness of a woman's senses. However, since Shang Guanhong, a senior hunter, didn't hear anything, it was obvious that what happened that day was a secret. Naturally, Zichen didn't want to show off. He didn't want to cause trouble. The main reason was that he wasn't familiar with Shang Guanhong. This was only the second time they had met. Seeing that Zichen didn't want to talk, Shang Guanhong was still a little depressed. However, she didn't pursue the matter. Instead, she said, "Since you're going to follow me out for training, I'll pick out some pills for you first. I originally wanted to give you a 20% discount, but I don't like your attitude. Forget about the discount." Zichen spread his hands and smiled. He didn't bargain. The current him wasn't lacking in resources. Moreover, this time he still needed to sell some things. Because of the massacre last time, he still had more than 100 spirit rings that he hadn't dealt with yet. After clearing out the resources and selling the things that needed to be sold, Zichen had a huge amount of wealth on him. Zichen purposely exchanged some corporeal realm fragments for Black Hawk and bought some pills. After that, he prepared to leave. "You're going to leave now?" Shang Guanhong asked curiously. "What do you think?" Zichen said indifferently. "All right then." Shang Guanhong hesitated for a moment before agreeing. "Why? Do you have something to say?" Zichen asked curiously. "It's nothing important. There will be an auction in Huping City in a few days. I want to go and take a look, just to see. Of course, according to the news, there will be a void tree for auction. How can I afford that? Naturally, I just want to see. A void tree." Zichen was shocked. The void tree was an earthly realm treasure. As long as one was in the earthly realm, they would be able to use it. Zichen had a lot of wealth on him, and he had spent 10 billion resources on this breakthrough. However, compared to the void tree, it was not even a drop in the ocean. In the eyes of some cultivators, even Zi Chen's heavenly thunderwings were not as valuable as a void tree. How about it? Are you interested in going and taking a look? Leave the entry to me, Shang Guanhong said. When Zi Chen heard this, he shook his head and said, I can't afford that thing. What's the use, even if I see it? That's a void tree. It's always good to take a look, Shang Guanhong said. Zi Chen shook his head again and said, What's so good about it? Isn't it just taking root in the void and absorbing the power of the void? Shang Guanhong's eyes lit up and she asked, You've seen a void tree before? Where is it? In my previous world. It belongs to a friend of mine. Right? You should have a back door here, right? In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, I suggest we leave through the back door. Why? Because someone wants a great treasure on me. They waited for me outside the castle for a year and followed me here. Shang Guanhong thought about it and said, Very well, come with me. Zi Chen followed Shang Guanhong out through the back door. During this time, Zi Chen changed his appearance. As for the so-called void tree, Zi Chen was truly not interested. Chapter 1261. Zi Chen followed Shang Guanhong and left through the back door. Then they walked out of the city gates and boarded a flying boat according to Shang Guanhong's instructions. This time, the two of them were heading to a huge mountain range thousands of miles away. There were many soldier, general, and spirit beasts there, but no king beasts. This was in line with Zi Chen's standards. From the moment they boarded the flying boat, Zi Chen stood at the front of the boat and looked into the distance. Shang Guanhong felt somewhat unnatural for a man and a woman to be alone. However, she quickly realized that she was overthinking things. On the flying boat, Zi Chen was very quiet and calm. She had encountered such situations before, but most of them were old fellows in the domain realm. It was her first time encountering such a hot-blooded youth as calm as Zi Chen. She carefully sized up Zi Chen and gradually sensed that there was something unusual about Zi Chen. When she looked into Zi Chen's eyes, her curious face suddenly turned into anger. Zi Chen's eyes were lifeless as he stared blankly ahead. He had actually spaced out. Spacing out meant being ignored. Shang Guanhong wasn't someone who used her appearance to show off. However, at this moment, a man and a woman were alone on a flying boat. Not only was she ignored, but he was also spacing out. This naturally made her angry. Hey, what are you doing? Shang Guanhong suddenly walked in front of Zi Chen and gently pushed Zi Chen. What are you doing? Zi Chen came to his senses and looked at Shang Guanhong. Do you know that you're spacing out? If I wanted to kill you, you would have died long ago. Shang Guanhong's voice was a bit loud because she was angry. Zi Chen found Shang Guanhong's behavior somewhat inexplicable and unreasonable. He decided to ignore her and once again looked into the distance. This time he wasn't spacing out, but there was longing in his eyes. It had been decades since he left the Tianwu continent. He missed his friends, both men and women. I wonder how they are doing. Did they break through to the emptiness realm? Did they step into this world? Zi Chen muttered. The more he learned about this world, the more regretful Zi Chen felt. If he had known this would happen, he would have let them break through to the corporeal realm. After all, the emptiness realm in this world was also filled with danger. My mind wandered again. Shang Guanhong had already walked up to Zi Chen and was very close to him. She moved closer to Zi Chen and asked, I saw longing in your eyes just now. What are you thinking about? Are you thinking about your family, your friends, or your wife? Zi Chen sorted out his emotions, and his expression returned to indifference. He said indifferently, nothing. Impossible. I felt that your emotions were fluctuating violently just now, and they were filled with longing and love. You still admitted it. Shang Guanhong was very curious, but Zi Chen couldn't be bothered to answer. However, as Shang Guanhong continued to ask, Zi Chen helplessly began to talk about the Martial Heaven continent. It went without saying that back then, the Martial Heaven continent was an existence comparable to heaven in the eyes of the Zhan Wu continent's people. Just as the two of them were chatting and gradually becoming familiar with each other, the news of the Void Tree being auctioned in Huping City spread. This news was enough to cause an uproar. Regardless of whether one could buy it or not, the Void Tree was destined to become a hot topic of discussion. At the same time, there were also people who privately wondered which idiot actually wanted to auction the Void Tree. Obviously, at the level where one could obtain the Void Tree, resources were just a number. Who would exchange a supreme treasure for a number? The Void Tree being auctioned was extremely rare in the history of Huping City, so the auction was held in the largest auction hall. When the time came, those who participated in the auction would all be in the domain realm. As for those in the corporeal realm, they didn't even have the qualifications to participate. There were many people outside Hunter's castle every day, so if one stood in front of the castle for a long time, it would be very difficult to attract everyone's attention. A man in purple had been staring at Hunter's castle for half a day, but he didn't step inside. In the end, he just chuckled and turned to leave. Before he left, his expression was complicated. It seemed that he was reminiscing, but also hating. Zichen and Shang Guanhong spent 2 days to travel thousands of miles. During this time, the two of them had a very pleasant chat on the flying boat. At least, that was what Shang Guanhong thought. Zichen's legendary growth history was like a history book, which made her yearn for the Tianwu continent even more. The flying boat stopped at the periphery of the mountain range. The two of them jumped off the boat and walked forward. Although there are no king-level battle beasts here, there are many spirit-level battle beasts and many people. It's best to be careful. As they went deeper into the forest, Shang Guanhong began to remind Zichen. However, thinking about his growth history, she felt that this reminder was unnecessary because Zichen couldn't be careless. After going 10 miles into the area, the two of them encountered their first battle beast, which was a soldier-level battle beast. The soldier-level battle beast was very large. It was eating, and the arrival of the two of them undoubtedly disturbed it. Roar. After seeing the two of them, it roared angrily. Its eyes flashed with an indescribable light, and it directly rushed toward Zichen. Zichen's figure flashed and easily dodged the soldier-level battle beast's attack. Then he kicked the soldier-level battle beast. In this attack, Zichen didn't use any yuan power at all. He only used pure strength. The soldier-level battle beast flew backward and crashed into 4 ancient trees before stopping. Your strength is really great. Shang Guanhong looked at Zichen in surprise. Zichen said indifferently, "It's just so. Let's go. Let's go. Aren't you here to hunt battle beasts? Why don't you kill it?" Shang Guanhong asked doubtfully. "It's a spirit-level battle beast," Zichen corrected. Now, even if a general-level battle beast appeared in front of him, Zichen wouldn't bother to kill it, let alone a soldier-level battle beast. Shang Guanhong couldn't understand Zichen's thoughts, but seeing Zichen leave, she could only follow. Zichen had killed too many people along the way, and he had long been tired of it. Therefore, unless it was necessary to kill, he really didn't want to kill. Along the way, no matter if he encountered soldier-level battle beasts or general-level battle beasts, Zichen would kick them away, appearing very relaxed. Some general-level battle beasts could already threaten some realm-level battle beasts, but in Zichen's eyes, it was still a matter of a kick. As they moved forward, Shang Guanhong gradually understood Zichen's strength. Even without the Thunder Wings, she believed that Zichen could kill realm-level battle beasts. This dense forest was very big. If they wanted to find spirit-level battle beasts, they could only go deeper and deeper. Soon, a day passed, and the two of them didn't find any spirit-level battle beasts. At night, Zichen started a bonfire and began to roast meat. Shang Guanhong kindly reminded him, "This is the mountain range. If you dare to start a fire at night, it will attract battle beasts." Zichen chuckled. "It's best if it can attract battle beasts, so I don't have to look for them again." Shang Guanhong's expression was not relaxed. There won't be just 1 or 2 battle beasts. This will attract groups of them. All right, I'll treat it as practice. As the roasted meat gradually turned golden, the aroma of the meat wafted out. After the meat was cooked, Zichen gave a large piece to Black Eagle, and the rest was shared with Shang Guanhong. Rustling sounds suddenly came from the forest, and the aura of battle beasts rushed in from all directions. In the dark night, the battle beasts were actually hiding their aura, but they couldn't escape the two's perception. Many battle beasts came from all directions, but unfortunately, there were no spirit-level battle beasts. However, in Shang Guanhong's eyes, a group of general-level battle beasts was very difficult to deal with. Without waiting for the battle beasts to rush up, Zichen shouted and rushed out. He rushed into the forest like a ray of golden light. Soon after, a series of thumping noises rang out from the forest. These noises were accompanied by the enraged roars of war beasts. However, these roars quickly turned into terrified shrieks. In the dense forest, vision was blocked. Shang Guanhong used her spiritual sense to investigate everything that happened in the forest. Her red lips were slightly open, and her face was full of shock. Compared with these battle beasts, Zichen was more like a battle beast, rampaging among the many battle beasts without any defense at all. Every general-level battle beast would be knocked away as soon as it came into contact with Zichen. The roars were accompanied by the sound of ancient trees breaking. In a short while, this group of battle beasts was knocked down by Zichen, but he only injured them. Zichen didn't kill them. After returning, Zichen obviously hadn't had enough fun. Shang Guanhong's expression suddenly changed at this moment. She looked at Zichen and wanted to say something, but for some reason, she stopped. After a while, Zichen, who came forward, exclaimed, "Hey, this is a spirit-level battle beast." As soon as he finished speaking, Zichen excitedly turned into a golden light and chased after it. Shang Guanhong's face was shocked again. This time, she was shocked by Zichen's perception. It was actually so sharp. Spirit-level battle beasts were very strong. This time, Zichen couldn't finish the battle quickly. There was no sound of energy explosion in the forest, and there was also the sound of ancient trees breaking. The energy oscillated, and the aftermath crushed the broken ancient trees into powder. The battle between Zichen and the spirit-level battle beast could be said to be fierce and exciting. Zichen's speed was very fast, like a flash of light. Shang Guanhong extended her spiritual sense to pay attention nervously. As long as Zichen showed signs of being defeated, she would go forward to help. However, judging from the battle situation, Zichen obviously had the upper hand. He had been suppressing the spirit-level battle beast. After a full quarter of an hour, Zichen roared, "Die." As the roar fell, Shang Guanhong saw a dazzling light in her spiritual sense. After the light fell, it was accompanied by a shrill scream. The battle was over. Not long after, Zichen appeared by the bonfire with a happy smile on his face. Obviously, he was very satisfied with the battle. He was indeed very satisfied because he had killed a spirit-level battle beast with only the power of the virtual realm. Shang Guanhong was shocked because of this. She finally understood why the hunter's castle couldn't wait to add an identity imprint on Zichen when he was only at the virtual realm, because when such a person grew up, it was indeed very scary. The next morning, the two continued on their journey. Shang Guanhong looked at the energetic Zichen and said, "Yesterday there was someone behind us, but I don't know if it was a coincidence or intentional tracking." Chapter 1262. Zichen believed that his perception was very strong, and he was definitely one of the best. He was definitely not worse than the others. But along the way, he did not notice anyone following him. "We've been followed since we entered the dense forest. They should have been following us all the way," Shang Guanhong said with certainty. "Black Eagle, go and take a look. Be careful." Zichen motioned for Black Eagle to investigate. In this world, there are many secret techniques, and naturally there were even more advanced concealment methods. Zi-chan would not be so arrogant as to think that he was not in danger just because he did not sense anything. Shang Guanhong was valued by Hunter's Castle, so she obviously had some special methods. In Zi-chen's opinion, Shang Guanhong's perception was sharper than his, and that was one of her abilities. A moment later, Black Eagle turned back. Spirit-level battle beasts already had high intelligence, but they could not transform into human form, nor could they transmit sound. They only nodded at Zi-chen. Sure enough, there's someone. A cold light flashed in Zi-chen's eyes. After accurately knowing the number of people and their approximate strength, Zi-chen was filled with killing intent. He had changed his appearance before leaving, so logically speaking, he should not have been caught. In Huping City, Zi-chen had only offended one person, and that was Zhou Chong. As for the two stewards of Hunter's Castle, Zi-chen did not think that they would deal with him because they were too strong. They were so strong that they could kill him with just a finger. Shang Guanhong was sure that they were the target, so Zi-chen naturally would not be polite to them. Although he did not like killing now, it did not mean that he did not know how to kill. What do we do next? Shang Guanhong asked. Zi-chen said indifferently, killing is also a kind of experience. How do we kill them? I'll take you to a mysterious place to kill them. As soon as he finished speaking, Shang Guanhong felt her vision blur, and then she came to an illusory world. This was a world full of various colors. The colorful ribbons in the sky were gorgeous and dazzling, hanging in the sky. The spatial world they were in was very big, and one could not see the end of it. What is this place? After Shang Guanhong sensed that these ribbons were rule-bending power, a look of shock appeared on her beautiful face again. As the manager of Precious Ware Pavilion and a senior hunter in Hunter's Castle, she had long since learned to keep a poker face. However, she found that whenever she was with Zi-chen, he could always make her mood fluctuate quickly. Standing in front of Zi-chen, Shang Guanhong felt like a little girl who had never seen the world. Everything about Zi-chen was new to her. She looked around in shock. As she released her spiritual senses, the shock on her face intensified. What is this? The power of the rule of metal, the power of the rule of wood, the power of the water, fire, earth, and other rules. This is actually the power of the rule of nature. And what is this? Oh my God, this is the rule of slaughter. This is good and evil. The true law of good and evil. Heavens, how is this possible? What is this place? The shocked Shang Guanhong's voice gradually changed. In the end, she even screamed. At this moment, she really looked like a little girl who had never seen the world. This is just an illusory space, but why is it so big? Shang Guanhong's violently fluctuating emotions gradually calmed down. Then, she keenly sensed everything. In the end, she turned back to look at Zi-chen and asked in disbelief, "Don't tell me that this is your illusory world." Zi-chen smiled and said, "You can also think that it isn't. Oh my God, it really is like this. But why is it like this? Why is your illusory world as big as a world? Also, these rules are all comprehended by you." Zi-chen nodded and stared into Shang Guanhong's eyes. He joked, "Of course, this is my secret. I'm sharing it with you now because I'm treating you as one of my own. If you dare to betray me, I'll definitely make the beautiful you die a very ugly death." Shang Guanhong's pretty face suddenly turned red. She didn't know if it was because she thought of something or Zi-chen's words had an effect. She looked at Zi-chen and seemed a little flustered. Then, she lowered her head and looked away. At this moment, for some reason, Shang Guanhong's heart started to beat faster. So much so that everything around her that shocked her also lost its luster at this moment. The atmosphere suddenly became subtle, awkward, and strange. As the atmosphere spread, the sound of heartbeats suddenly rang out in this quiet world. Her heartbeat was so rapid and so intense. Shang Guanhong's face turned even redder. The smile on Zi-chen's face froze, and his expression became extremely awkward. He was just joking, but why did it turn out this way? Fortunately, Someone happened to break in at this moment and ruin this awkward atmosphere. Is it a space channel? Could it be that we've arrived at a secret place? If it's a space channel, then we might have a big harvest. As the voice sounded, figures appeared 300 meters in front of Zichen. Look, what a rich and pure power of the rules. We must have arrived at a secret place. Haha, I didn't expect to be lucky enough to run into a secret place. We're really lucky. Zichen is lucky. Otherwise, we would have caught up with him and killed him. Everyone stood together and looked at the space in front of them as they shouted loudly. A total of 8 people had appeared. 5 of them were at the mid-corporeal realm and appeared very excited as they shouted loudly. The other 3 were at the late corporeal realm. They looked a lot calmer, but the excitement in their eyes could not be suppressed no matter how hard they tried. Suddenly, an extremely polite voice sounded from behind them. "Excuse me, are you all part of the city's army?" The corporeal realm expert was about to answer when he suddenly felt that something was wrong and turned around. When they turned around, they saw Zichen and Shang Guanhong. At this moment, Shang Guanhong had already regained her usual calmness. Her beautiful face caused everyone to be stunned. "Zichen, it's you. I didn't expect you to come in here too." The late corporeal realm expert was the first to regain his composure and coldly shouted at Zichen. "Haha, I thought you got lucky and ran away. I didn't expect you to come in here too. Just nice, we can go treasure hunting after killing you. It's killing 2 birds with 1 stone." The others also reacted and shouted loudly. However, they were all paying attention to Shang Guanhong from the corner of their eyes. Zichen looked at them and asked, "There are so many of you. Are you all here to kill me?" "Of course. Why?" Zichen asked again. "Because of the great treasure on you. Kid, you're only at the virtual realm. It's a waste for the great treasure to be on you. Only we can bring out the true power of the great treasure." A mid-corporeal realm expert sneered. Zichen continued, "I'm afraid it's not just the great treasure. It should be Zhou Chang's wish as well." A late corporeal realm expert's expression changed. "I don't know what you're talking about. You should all be part of the city's army. Or rather, there should be a few of you here. Zhou Chang must have sent you to kill me." Zichen said calmly. The late corporeal realm expert wanted to deny it, but at this moment a mid-corporeal realm expert said, "You're going to die today anyway. What's the point of telling you? We're the city's army. Killing you today is not only to steal the treasure, but also to give Zhou Chang some face." Zichen nodded and said seriously, "Since you're so honest, I've decided to kill you last. You, TCH. Before the mid-corporeal realm expert could finish his words, he saw Zichen's figure in front of him sway slightly. Immediately after, a gentle breeze blew past. The gentle breeze blew through this world, moving the ribbons. The colorful ribbons gently spun, looking very beautiful. Shang Guanhong felt that this scene was very beautiful. The other corporeal realm experts also felt that it was very beautiful. However, behind the beauty was danger, an extremely fatal danger. The gentle breeze brushed past their faces and blew towards their companions. A soft and tiny sound entered the mid-corporeal realm expert's ears. It was a very light and faint sound like the wind. It was very likely that it was just an illusion. A ribbon streaked past his eyes. It was very dazzling. The mid-corporeal realm expert couldn't help but blink. However, in this blink of an eye, the gentle breeze disappeared and the beautiful ribbons stopped spinning. The mid-corporeal realm expert opened his eyes and saw Zichen several hundred meters away. He was still as calm as ever, but the expression of the beauty beside Zichen seemed to be a bit off. "TCH, you want to kill us? Stop dreaming. Today is the day you die. If you beg for mercy, I'll consider slowly torturing you to death. That way, you'll be able to live a little longer." The mid-corporeal realm expert laughed complacently. His laughter echoed in this illusory world. It seemed very empty, very lonely, and also very lonely. The mid-corporeal realm expert felt very strange when he didn't hear any laughter of agreement. He looked to the side. He saw the 4 mid-corporeal realm experts standing there and silently staring at Zichin. Their expressions seemed to be a bit sluggish. The mid-corporeal realm expert didn't understand the 4's actions and didn't notice the thin red line on their necks. He looked to the other side where the 3 late corporeal realm experts had been standing. However, the 3 of them had disappeared. When he turned around, he saw the 3 of them several hundred meters behind him. Their faces were somewhat pale. The corners of one of their eyes were even twitching, as if he was enduring some sort of pain. You guys, the mid-corporeal realm expert was puzzled. However, just as he opened his mouth, he heard a few more thumps coming from beside him. He decided to ignore these sounds and wanted to say a complete sentence at this moment. However, a head that rolled to his feet made him forcefully stop speaking. It was a human head, a mid-corporeal realm expert's head, and on the side there was a corpse lying there. Then he saw 3 more corpses. All 3 of them had their heads chopped off as well. When their bodies fell, their heads separated from their necks. The mid-corporeal realm expert was stunned at first before his expression changed drastically. This place that was originally extremely beautiful in his eyes seemed to have become extremely dangerous at this moment. Such a scene appeared in his mind. Chapter 1263. It was as if an illusion had flashed through his mind. The middle corporeal realm expert tried to fill in the gaps in his mind and came to the conclusion that it was impossible. His expression changed once again as fear rose from the bottom of his heart. He looked around and shouted, "Who is it? Come out." It was obvious that he didn't believe that a mere emptiness realm expert could do this. It must have been an outsider or some dangerous existence in this world that had made a move. Although there were many suspicious points, it was still better than believing that these people had all been killed by a single blow from an emptiness realm expert. Shang Guanhong looked at the middle corporeal realm expert and his pale and frightened face and suddenly felt that he was very funny. However, she couldn't laugh because everything that had just happened was indeed against common sense. Even she had only vaguely discovered the trajectory of Zichen's movement. Even the person involved, Zichen, was astonished by the attack just now. This was the first time he had fought in his own illusory world. He didn't expect it to be this strong. This isn't a secret area at all. This is your illusory space. You discovered us a long time ago and were waiting for us here. A trembling voice rang out from behind the middle corporeal realm expert. The 3 late corporeal realm experts had already seen through the clues. What? It's really you? How is this possible? The middle corporeal realm expert's expression changed to one of shock. The 3-meter space outside is your illusory space, but coming in here is like walking into a real world. There are also many kinds of laws here. Who are you? Another late corporeal realm expert spoke, his voice clearly filled with shock. Naturally, I'm the one who will kill you. As soon as he finished speaking, Zichen rushed towards the late corporeal realm expert. He was already extremely fast, so in his own illusory space his speed had reached an extreme limit. The middle corporeal realm expert couldn't even see Zichen's figure. However, the late corporeal realm expert could sense Zichen's arrival. The 3 of them shouted and attacked together. Waves of energy surged in this illusory space, forming a storm around the 3 of them. The 3 of them stood at the very center of the storm and controlled it to spread out in all directions. The energy swirled and tore apart the power of the rules in the surroundings. This attack not only blocked Zichen, but also broke apart this illusory space. From the 3 of them's point of view, if they joined forces, they would naturally be able to block Zichen and break through the seemingly extraordinary illusory space. Under normal circumstances, the 3 of them were right. It was too easy for a late corporeal realm expert to break through a mid-virtual realm expert's world. However, this was Zi Chen's illusory space, which was created by the 3 pages of the heavenly tome. Breaking this world was equivalent to shattering the 3 pages of the heavenly tome. He didn't know if a domain realm expert had this ability, but the 3 late corporeal realm experts couldn't do it. Not only were the 3 unable to break through the illusory space, they couldn't even block Zi Chen's path. A stream of dazzling blade light cut through the storm and rushed towards a late corporeal realm expert in a straight line. Pooh! A saber light flashed, and a soft sound was heard. A severed arm flew up and was then crushed by the destructive power. The storm was also extinguished by this blade. The 3 of them had no time to be shocked. They could only retreat because Zi Chen was already in front of them. He glanced indifferently at the 3 retreating people. In his eyes, they were simply too slow. Zi Chen tightened his grip on the black blade in his hand. Then he raised his blade forward. Almost at the same moment, he lifted his foot. Zi Chen swung his blade down. He arrived in front of a late corporeal realm expert in a single step. The black blade then swept across his opponent's neck. A rule breaker accompanied the blade light as it chopped off the late corporeal realm expert's head. One of the 3 late corporeal realm experts had died because of this. The death of their comrade freed the other 2. The 2 of them had already retreated several hundred meters. At the same time, they gripped their weapons tightly in their hands and mobilized the powerful energy within their bodies to attack a certain spot in the air. Boom! The 2's attacks exploded at a certain point in the void. Such an attack could even break through the space of a mid-corporeal realm expert and cause the space of a late corporeal realm expert to tremble violently. However, in Zi Chen's illusory space, only a slight tremor occurred at the spot where the attack had struck. It was as if this space was a real illusory world. How is this possible? The remaining 2 were shocked and horrified. Immediately after, the 2 of them opened their own realms and prepared to hide there. The current Zi Chen was simply too frightening. However, just as the 2 of them were about to open their realms, the illusory colored power of the rules enveloped the 2 of them. An enormous pressure pressed down on them, and the 2 of them discovered that they couldn't open their realms. Damn it, how can this be? I can't open my space. This illusory space is too strange. It can actually suppress the realms and prevent them from opening. This won't do. We have to think of a way to escape. At this moment, they had no chance of winning. The only thing they could think of was to survive and escape. The 2 of them believed that once they reached the outside world, they would definitely be able to kill Zi Chen. However, their only hope of escaping had been destroyed by Zi Chen's mysterious illusory space. They couldn't open their realms at all. The colorful light and power of the rules trapped the 2 of them like a giant net. The aura that was unique to the rules of destruction caused the 2 late corporeal stage experts to feel despair. On one side, the 2 late corporeal stage experts were clearly not far from death. On the other side, the mid-corporeal stage expert's attack on the illusory space was fruitless. When he saw Zi Chen easily kill a late corporeal stage expert, his heart was filled with despair. In his despair, he saw Shang Guanhong. His face was filled with malevolence and madness. He shouted loudly and charged toward Shang Guanhong. At this moment, he naturally didn't have any dirty thoughts in his heart. He only wanted to restrain his opponent and use her to threaten Zi Chen. In his opinion, since Zi Chen was together with such a beauty, the 2 of them must be in a relationship. He could sense that this woman was also at the mid-corporeal stage. However, as a member of the city's army, he had been carefully selected and his battle strength was naturally extraordinary. Therefore, he was confident that he could quickly restrain this woman. Shang Guanhong calmly watched as the mid-corporeal stage expert approached. In the latter's eyes, it was obvious that this little beauty was scared silly. As he approached, he began to mobilize the power around his body. However, before he could launch an attack, a ray of light surged out from the woman's body. This was a ray of green light. It was mainly rich with life energy and was supplemented by other powers. If one were to release their spiritual senses to observe carefully, they would be able to detect that this attack, which was mainly rich with life energy, actually contained another 48 types of rules. Puff. With a soft sound, the green light directly entered the mid-corporeal stage expert's body. However, it didn't leave a wound on his body, and he didn't feel the slightest bit of discomfort. The mid-corporeal stage expert was stunned. However, his expression quickly turned malevolent once again. However, in the next moment, this malevolence completely froze. His body instantly turned green. Immediately after, his skin became dry and rough as if it had lost all moisture. Then his skin cracked open like dry tree bark. In the next moment, a small two-leaved sapling emerged from the mid-corporeal stage expert's head. The moment it emerged, the mid-corporeal stage expert's boundless life energy converged towards the sapling. With the nourishment of this life energy, the sapling instantly grew larger. It was like a tree of life, spreading life energy in all directions. In just a few breaths of time, the little sapling had grown into a towering tree. The tree was lush with leaves and lush green. Every leaf emitted a green light and released the power of life. If it was paired with some fruits of life, this would be a living ancient tree of life. The mid-corporeal stage expert was the foundation of the ancient tree of life. His life energy had long since disappeared. Furthermore, his entire body had been assimilated by the ancient tree of life. The mid-corporeal stage expert had died in front of her eyes, but Shangguan Hong's beautiful face was still calm. It seemed that she had killed many people in this way. The seemingly beautiful and kind Shangguan Hong didn't even blink when she killed. It seemed that there wasn't a single kind person in the Zhanwu continent. On one side, the battle had been easily resolved. On the other side, Zi Chen had also successfully killed 2 late corporeal stage experts. Since the corporeal stage was divided into 3 stages, and the power within one's body increased by 10 times, a late corporeal stage law fragment was equivalent to 100 early corporeal stage law fragments. Converted into law fragments, it was equivalent to 1,000,000. As for a domain fragment, its value was equivalent to 100 late corporeal stage law fragments. This was based on the growth of the corporeal stage. The emptiness stage and earth stage experts did not receive such treatment. After the battle ended, Zi Chen turned around to look at Shangguan Hong. There was a clear fluctuation on his calm face. As the ruler of this world, he was naturally aware of everything that had just happened. Shangguan Hong had used a type of law power that Zi Chen was very familiar with. In fact, he also possessed it. It was the law of nature. He hadn't expected Shangguan Hong to have comprehended the complete law of nature. Moreover, she was incomparably skilled in using it. She had long since grasped the essence of the law of nature. Although Zi Chen had also comprehended the law of nature, he had only used it as a springboard to comprehend the law of destruction. In this way, Zi Chen was like an amateur who knew all the rules in the arena. On the other hand, Shangguan Hong was a professional who had spent her entire life studying the law of nature. Shangguan Hong had a very deep understanding of the law of nature. Her killing methods were even more unique. Just as he was putting away the corpse and walking over, Shangguan Hong suddenly spoke. "This tree of life is for you." At this moment, only an ancient tree could be seen. The face of the corporeal realm expert was no longer clear. However, if one looked closely, they would still be able to see some clues. Shangguan Hong continued. Although this cannot compare to the ancient tree of life, it contains an extremely rich life force. It can save a life at a critical moment. You can raise it in your world. No matter what, his opponent was still a human. Although she was dead, she was still a dead person in his world. Zi Chen had killed countless people, but he would always process and refine the corpses every time. He had never seen a corpse grow like this before, so he was somewhat conflicted. He shook his head. Shangguan Hong did not insist. She immediately opened her own corporeal realm and stored the tree inside. Chapter 1264. Shang Guanhong was dressed in white, without a single speck of dust on her. Her waist was slender, her figure was slender, and her face was beautiful. She could be considered a very, very beautiful person. Even if she stood next to Shang Guanyu, Su Mengyao, Wang Xian, and the others, she wouldn't pale in comparison. However, at this moment, Zi Chen would rather that she was a man than a beautiful woman. This was because the moment Shang Guanhong opened her reality space, he saw the scene inside and felt a chill in his heart. He didn't see the entire reality space, only a small area, like the corner of a huge iceberg. It was a world dominated by green, and the entire world was filled with a rich aura of life. Besides the natural laws, there was also a large forest that formed this aura of life. The trees in the forest contained a rich life force. There were tall and short trees, and the aura of life was strong and weak. However, if one looked closely, one could still make out a vague human face on these trees. Obviously, these trees were the same as the one in front of him. They were all left behind by Shang Guanhong to save his life. However, a woman actually kept so many corpses in her own reality space. This made him feel a chill in his heart. Zi Chen's emotions fluctuated and his aura changed. After putting away the trees, Shang Guanhong looked at Zi Chen and smiled. "This is my secret. You have to keep it a secret for me. Otherwise, I won't be polite to you." Her smile had a hint of charm, and the tone of her voice was like a couple flirting with each other. Her gentle words circled around his ears, and at this moment, she was so beautiful and moving. However, Zi Chen's mind was filled with the corpses and trees. The beautiful Shang Guanhong in front of him was judged as a femme fatale in his heart. Zi Chen decided that he had to keep his distance from her. Otherwise, if he accidentally provoked her one day and turned into a tree, it would be troublesome. The trouble has been dealt with. Can we go now? Seeing that Zi Chen didn't move forward, Shang Guanhong asked, "Let's go." Zi Chen smiled, but his smile seemed a little unnatural. The two of them reappeared in the real world. Shang Guanhong looked at Zi Chen and smiled, and the two of them walked forward. Zi Chen didn't know if it was because he was paying too much attention, but he noticed that Shang Guanhong seemed to have gotten closer to him when they were walking. As they walked on the uneven mountain road, the two of them often touched each other's skin. However, when Zi Chen thought back to the previous scene, Zi Chen felt as if he had been stabbed by a poisonous needle the moment his skin touched hers. At this moment, Zi Chen completely regarded Shang Guanhong as a femme fatale who could only be seen from afar. He wondered what she would think if she knew about this. In Huping City, discussions about the void tree continued to heat up. Almost all the places where cultivators gathered in restaurants and inns were paying attention to the news of the void tree auction. However, there were also some people who did not care about this. For example, the captain of the city's army, Zhou Chong, had a father and a grandfather. Both of them needed the void tree. Even if there was one, it would not be his turn. The military discipline of the city's army was very strict, so he could not lower himself to deal with Zi Chen for no reason. He could only rely on others. After receiving accurate information, someone chased after him. There should be news now. Soon, Zhou Chong's communication bead vibrated. It was a message from his good friend, the captain. The content of the message was very simple. He said that he had found Zi Chen and would be able to deal with him soon. After reading the content of the message, Zhou Chong smiled. He wanted to kill Zi Chen, but he wanted Zi Chen's precious treasure even more. Although he was a captain now, he was not the strongest among the late-stage captains in the city. However, once he obtained those wings, he believed that he would be the strongest among the captains. He might even be the strongest person in Huping City who was not from the domain. This was also his plan. He wanted to obtain Zi Chen's wings first. Thus, during this time, he did not look for Wang Jun to discuss the merging of the jade pieces. It was as if the two of them had forgotten about this matter and did not meet. Zhou Chong fantasized about everything that would happen after he obtained the wings. Time passed as he fantasized. After a long time, Zhou Chong felt that something was wrong and sent a message to the other party. Such a long time should be enough to deal with Ziqin. However, there was still no news. Zhou Chong began to let his imagination run wild. Of course, it could only be that the other party had run away with the wings. However, that was also impossible because 3 people had gone. Although it was easier to do things with more people, they could still monitor each other. After sending a dozen messages without receiving a reply, Zhou Chong felt that something was wrong. He ordered someone to check the life plates and see if there was anything unusual. Soon, the person who went out returned and told Zhou Chong that all the life plates had shattered. What? It's broken? This result caused Zhou Chong to be shocked. Immediately after, his expression turned ugly. Dead. They were all dead. A total of 8 people had gone. They had all been arranged by Zhou Chong. However, no matter how he looked at it, they should have been able to kill Ziqin. Why were they the ones who had died? Zhou Chong waved his hand, indicating that the other party should leave. He sat alone in the hall and pondered quietly. However, he could not figure out why this had happened. After sitting in silence for about 2 hours, Zhou Chong's slightly listless eyes lit up. He said indifferently, "Men." An early transcendent realm expert entered the hall. "Send someone to sell a piece of news near Hunter's Castle. Tell them that Ziqin is in the Spirit Hunter mountain range and that they should pay attention to his whereabouts," Zhou Chong said indifferently. The early transcendent realm expert nodded and left. Soon, a virtual realm expert went to sell the news. Not long after, the news about Ziqin in the Spirit Hunter mountain range spread. The Spirit Hunter mountain range was where Ziqin was. Many hunters would go there to hunt beasts. This result was not surprising. Thinking about the battle back then and the affirmative words given by the domain expert, many people started to have other thoughts. Then they set off for the Spirit Hunter mountain range. Hunter's Castle was also very concerned about the news about Ziqin. Soon, this news passed through the layers and reached many managers. Got it. After hearing the news, Ling Xing just waved his hand indifferently. He did not seem to care at all. The wings on Ziqin's body were indeed good stuff. They were very similar to the thing that could unleash the fastest speed in the world. However, the more this kind of thing was, the more restrictions it had. It was almost useless to the domain expert. Therefore, the domain expert would not break off relations with Hunter's Castle because of a useless item. As for the others, they might not be able to deal with Ziqin. After hearing the news, Lord Wu just asked people to continue to pay attention to it. He did not say anything else. Obviously, he also thought highly of Ziqin. What? Someone is selling information about Ziqin? Ming Chu frowned slightly when he heard the news. Yes, the news clearly states that Ziqin is in the Spirit Hunter mountain range. Did you find out who sent the news? Ming Chu asked. Not yet, but if you investigate carefully, you should be able to find out. Ming Chu waved his hand and said, "It's not a big deal. Don't waste your energy investigating. As for Ziqin, you just need to pay attention to him. Don't ask about anything else. Of course, you don't need to remind him. Just consider this a test for him." The hunter nodded and left. In addition to Ming Chu, there was another young man in the room. His eyes had strange vertical pupils, and there was a red mark between his eyebrows. He looked very evil. While Ming Chu was talking, the young man kept playing with the dagger in his hand. The dagger jumped between his fingers. "Is it that Ziqin?" the young man asked after the outsider left. "Who else could it be?" Ming Chu said in annoyance. "I want to see how an emptiness realm expert can spend 10 billion resources. If he is too weak, I don't mind borrowing his wings to play with." "That thing is like adding wings to a tiger," the young man said calmly. Ming Chu frowned and warned the young man, "You should know the rules of Hunter's Castle. Don't mess around." The evil young man put away the dagger and said, "I know. Of course I know." I can't fight with my own people. However, I am very curious about him. He can get the mark when he is only in the emptiness realm. Compared to him, he is slightly stronger than me." Seeing that the evil young man was about to leave, Ming Chu asked, "Where are you going?" "I am going to see that guy called Zichin. If he is dead, I can collect his body and take back his wings. However, it is better for such a person to die. Otherwise, he will need more resources from Hunter's Castle to break through in the future. At that time, who will be able to supply him? You don't have to worry about this. You don't have to go. With Shang Guanhong following him, he should be fine. Sister Hong is going." The evil young man's eyes flashed with an evil light and said, "Then I should go." After saying that, the evil young man left directly. Ming Chu shook his head and did not say anything. In the Spirit Hunter mountain range, Zichin and Shang Guanhong were still going deep. This time, Zichen's goal was to kill spirit-level beasts. Obtaining resources was part of the reason, but adapting to his new power was also a very important reason. Putting aside the scene of the femme fatale, Shang Guanhong was actually a good person. Along the way, she explained a lot of things about beasts to Zichin. There were many kinds of beasts, including some powerful races. Shang Guanhong used some beasts as an example, and then she looked at the black eagle. After careful observation, she found that the black eagle was unusual and asked, "This is a storm eagle." Someone had already said that the black eagle was a storm eagle. Zichin also knew about it, so he nodded. "Storm eagle, it is really a storm eagle. I didn't expect you to have a beast of this level. How did you tame it? I almost misjudged it." Shang Guanhong had seen the black eagle several times, but she had never paid attention to it. She thought it was just a demon beast. Until today, when they talked about beasts, she found it strange. Zichin told her what happened between him and the black eagle, and finally said, "This can't be considered taming it. We're friends who get to know each other through fighting. I didn't expect there to be such a thing, but this is indeed a way to tame beasts. If you have the spirit communication technique, it will be even easier." Spirit communication technique? Is it a technique to control beasts? Zichin asked doubtfully. Chapter 1265. Summoning technique is a kind of talent that will awaken when a baby is born. It is also unique to the Zhanwu continent. It can be regarded as an extremely powerful magical ability. Every person who awakens summoning technique is destined to become a powerful beast tamer. Once discovered by a force, they will be focused on training. In history, there have been endless killings caused by beast tamers. They have proven the power of summoning technique time and time again. When encountering such an existence, you must try to befriend them and never provoke them. After talking about some more beasts, Shang Guanhong began to explain some strange existences on the Zhanwu continent. "Are there many of them?" Zichin asked. "Not many, but the appearance of one is enough to make people afraid." Zichin said again, "Beast tamers are so powerful, as you said. There shouldn't be any in Huping City. Since this kind of existence is so rare, it won't be easy to meet one." Shang Guanhong nodded first. She agreed with Zichen's statement. Beast tamers were indeed rare. Then she smiled mysteriously. "That makes sense. Others may not meet one, but you will definitely meet one." "Why?" "Because there is a beast tamer in Hunter's Castle. This is a secret. Very few people know about it, but I happen to know about it and have even met him once. There really is one." Zichin looked a little surprised. "He was discovered by Hunter's Castle a long time ago. Before he grew up, he was brought to the castle and began to be trained. It is said that a lot of resources have been spent, but he has never appeared in front of the world. As soon as he appears, he must have the same token mark as you and me. Doesn't that mean that he was recognized when he was at a very low realm?" Zichin asked. "That's true, but it's not the same. You and I are outsiders. Although we are the core members of Hunter's Castle, there are always some differences between us and those who have been trained since childhood. However, the differences are not big, and there is no obvious difference in resources. After walking for a while, the two decided to stop. Since there was a beast tamer in the Jianwu continent, it was obvious that there would be other mysterious existences. Zichen was very curious about this, so he asked, among the senior hunters in Hunter's Castle, other than the beast tamer, who else is there? Shang Guanhong glanced at Zichen and said, "This is already considered to be probing the secrets of Hunter's Castle, but it's not a big deal. These people will be born in the end. Besides the beast tamer, I know of two others. One is the undying Wuxia, and the other is Manshur. I don't know much about Manshur, but this person has a huge build. I think he should focus on defense. I've never seen him before. As for Wuxia, speaking of this person," Shang Guanhong's beautiful eyebrows raised slightly, as if she didn't know how to describe him. After thinking for a while, she said, "This person is very strange. He does things according to his personal preferences. There's no distinction between good and evil in his heart. The most important thing is his undying body. This is the foundation of his arrogance and arrogance. With an undying body, no one can kill him." This was the second time Zichen had heard of an undying body. The first time was when he was facing the Supreme Demon. At that time, the other party mistakenly thought that Zichen's flame of life was an undying body. However, Zichen knew that he wasn't an undying body. At this moment, when he heard that there really was an undying body, he was very surprised. Shang Guanhong then said, "This person is very dangerous. You'd better not meet him." Shang Guanhong only knew of these three people, but it was obvious that none of them were mortals. Compared to them, Shang Guanhong only comprehended the laws of nature and seemed to be the weakest. However, Zichen didn't believe that Shang Guanhong, who was valued by Hunter's Castle, would be so simple. Zichen had previously thought that he was almost invincible in the reality realm. Now that he heard of these three people, his thoughts were somewhat shaken. "What realms are they at?" Zichen asked. Although the two sides hadn't met before and didn't have any grudges, it was still good to know some things in advance. Reality realm. They are currently at this realm, so they haven't appeared in the world yet. As for their specific realms, I'm not too sure, but I think they should be about the same as me. Almost all of them are at the middle realm, Shang Guanhong said after thinking for a moment. The sound of flapping wings suddenly rang out. The black eagle had returned. Ong, the black eagle screeched, conveying some kind of message to Zichen. Recently, Shang Guanhong's sharp senses had detected a large number of human cultivators in the surroundings. Feeling that something was amiss, Zichen sent the black eagle to investigate. "What? You're saying that these people's target is me?" Zichen asked, very puzzled. The black eagle nodded. It was obvious that it had heard the human conversation during this period. "Why me? Since when do I have so many enemies?" Shang Guanhong said, "Of course you don't have that many enemies, but there are a lot of people who have designs on you. I think that their purpose for coming here should be the wings on your body. As for their whereabouts, it should be the military communication beads in the city that you killed that sent back the news, and then it was leaked by the people there." Zichen nodded when he heard this, then fell into silence. This time he was here to gain experience. Whether it was killing spirit beasts or people, it was all the same. However, in addition to gaining experience, Zichen also needed to find a way to grow in battle. This was because ever since he absorbed 10 billion resources last time, Zichen found that he could no longer absorb the power of these laws. His body seemed to have reached a state of saturation and no longer needed power. He obviously hadn't encountered a bottleneck yet, but his strength wasn't growing. So far, Zichen hadn't found a way to break through. Sensing the murderous intent surging from Zichen's body, Shang Guanhong knew what Zichen was thinking and asked, "How do you want to kill this time?" "The void space is my last resort. I don't want to expose it yet. Moreover, there are obviously a lot of people this time, so I'll just kill them outside." The two didn't deliberately wait for the pursuers to arrive, but continued to go deeper. Along the way, Chen would step forward and beat up general-level war beasts. If he encountered spirit-level war beasts, Chen would rely on his own strength to fight them and then kill them. If a spirit-level war beast was sold in Huping City, its value would be as high as several million, and some would even exceed 10 million. Although Chen didn't need resources at the moment, it didn't mean that he wouldn't need them in the future. Moreover, even if he didn't need them, the Black Eagle would still use them. 3 days later, the first team to go deep found Chen. Under normal circumstances, a corporeal realm cultivator wouldn't be able to kill a spirit-level war beast. It would even be very difficult to kill a general-level war beast. Therefore, those who dared to come here to train were either very strong or in groups. After receiving the message from Huping City, they began to look for Chen. As the first team of cultivators found Chen, other cultivators would soon arrive through the communication bead, and Chen's battle would begin at this moment. 1 late corporeal realm cultivator and 6 mid-corporeal realm cultivators. Such a team dares to come here to die? Chen said indifferently when he saw the 7 approaching corporeal realm cultivators. Shang Guanhong glanced at Chen and said, "Such a team isn't weak. They can even defeat a spirit-level war beast. It's just that you're too strong. However, don't be careless. This is the real world, and these people's combat power is still very strong." The 7 people were very confident. When they came, they surrounded them. Obviously, they didn't plan to let anyone go. Chen glanced at the Black Eagle on his shoulder. The latter tactfully jumped to Shang Guanhong's side. Chen, hand over the wings obediently. We can give you a quick death. As they approached, one of the mid-corporeal realm cultivators spoke, directly revealing their intentions. Although he didn't think that Chen would be willing to hand over the wings, it was still appropriate to say a few words. After all, they weren't assassins. They couldn't do something like killing someone without saying a word. Moreover, a few words would be enough to probe Chen's strength. "Let's fight." Chen responded indifferently, then rushed towards one of the mid-corporeal realm cultivators. The energy around him began to surge. He was only at the peak of the mid-corporeal realm. Seeing Chen rush over without using the wings, the mid-corporeal realm cultivator's face immediately filled with disdain. Because he had the advantage in numbers, he didn't use any weapons. Instead, he gathered the power of space in his fist and punched at Chen. Chen also punched at the same time. The surface of the golden fist carried the power of destruction. Boom! The 2 fists collided with a loud explosion. The energy began to violently vibrate and spread with the 2 at the center. The mid-corporeal realm cultivator felt as if he had been rammed by a spirit-grade beast. An enormous force spread out and the power wrapped around his fist instantly collapsed. Then, the enormous force passed through his fist and into his arm. The sound of bones cracking continuously rang out. The mid-corporeal realm cultivator was sent flying. His expression was filled with shock as blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He never imagined that he would be the one to be completely defeated in a clash of an entire realm. The battle instantly broke out after the exchange. Various kinds of energy appeared in the sky. Chen relied on his extreme speed and fists to wander among the mid-corporeal realm cultivators. After a few punches, 6 mid-corporeal realm cultivators were sent flying one after another. As for the late corporeal realm cultivator, he sent Chen flying after colliding with Chen. However, when the flying Chen approached once again, a black blade appeared in his hand. He gripped the blade and charged towards the late corporeal realm cultivator. The 2 weapons collided in the sky, causing an intense energy shockwave. The mid-corporeal realm cultivators watched in shock. Chen was actually not at a disadvantage. This discovery shocked and horrified them. One had to know that Chen had yet to use his wings. Once he did, his battle strength would be even greater. It was only at this moment that they truly understood how powerful and terrifying Zichen was. Every one of them began to feel the urge to retreat. However, how could Zichen let them escape? One had to know that a mid-corporeal realm cultivator was worth 100,000 spirit stones on the surface. If they were to include the mid-corporeal weapon they had, their value would be even higher. Of course, if he encountered a spirit-grade weapon, then it would be Zichen's bad luck. That thing would follow its master to death. The mid-corporeal realm cultivators wanted to escape, but Zichen was prepared to kill them. A resplendent silver light appeared on his back, and the 6-winged heavenly thunder wings appeared on his back. With the appearance of the thunder wings, his strength also skyrocketed. He went from the mid-corporeal realm to the early corporeal realm. Behind him was a 3-meter corporeal realm cultivator. He gripped his blade, flapped his wings, and charged towards the first mid-corporeal realm cultivator. Chapter 1266. When Zichen was at the early stage of the illusory realm, he had been able to slaughter mid-stage corporeal realm experts with the help of his lightning wings. This time he had stayed in Heaven Number 1 for a year and consumed 10 billion worth of resources. His battle strength had greatly increased, making it easy for him to slaughter mid-stage corporeal realm experts. The pitch-black blade light flashed 6 times in the sky above Zichen. 6 mid-stage corporeal realm experts collapsed in pools of blood. This scene happened in a short instant. The last late-stage corporeal realm expert's expression changed drastically because of Zichen's effortless slaughter. He had a bad feeling. Regret grew in his heart, and the thought of escaping grew in his mind. Zichen's speed was something he had never seen before in his life. Escaping from him was undoubtedly a pipe dream. However, the late-stage corporeal realm expert already had a plan in mind when he decided to escape. He immediately opened up his own reality space and prepared to hide inside. As for the coordinates, it was obvious that no one knew except for him. He only needed a thought to open up his own reality space and enter it in a flash. Even with Zichen's speed, he could not stop the other party. The late-stage corporeal realm expert glanced at Zichen before he disappeared. The fear on his face disappeared and was replaced by a mocking sneer at the corner of his mouth. He had already spread the news that a large number of corporeal realm experts would soon gather here and join forces to kill Zichen. He believed that Zichen would die. The late-stage corporeal realm expert disappeared and entered his own world. He did not notice that Zichen's indifferent expression had turned into a mocking one in the next moment. The moment the late-stage corporeal realm expert disappeared, Zichen took a step forward and flashed to the place where the latter had just disappeared. Then, Zichen stood up and raised his blade. The pitch-black blade suddenly released a dazzling light. This light was divided into 2 colors, gold and silver. The power of laws flowed within it. Shangguanhong stood in the distance and watched Zichen raise his blade. His expression was so solemn and his body was filled with a powerful aura. He appeared to be incomparably confident. At this moment, he was like a giant of heaven and earth, looking down on the world. The blade lit up with a dazzling light as rays of light of laws changed on the blade. Shangguanhong's beautiful face was immediately filled with shock. She could see the shadow of many laws on Zichen's long saber. These rules were the rules of Zichen's virtual realm. They flashed with a strange light and then began to change based on the gold and silver colors. Shangguanhong saw many laws, many powerful laws of the world. For example, the law of nature, the law of life, the law of good and evil, the law of slaughter. These laws were constantly changing, and it was as if they were undergoing some sort of evolution. The nature and functions of these laws were slowly changing, and in the end, many laws fused and transformed into a single type of law. This was a rule that Shangguanhong had never seen before. The moment this rule appeared, she had an illusion that this was no longer the rule of the Zhanwu continent, but another rule that had never appeared in the world. Her perception was very sharp. With the help of the natural laws, she could detect many different things. She sensed that the laws on the surface of Zi Chen's saber had an aura that made people shudder. This aura came from the omnipotent, destructive aura of the laws. In the next moment, Zi Chen's saber slashed at the void in front of him. The void trembled as the destructive law gushed out from the tip of the saber and shot towards the void in front of him. In an instant, a crack appeared in the void. It was as if a world had been split open. A black hole appeared in front of Zichen. The black hole was a passageway. On the other side of the passageway stood a person. It was the late corporeal stage expert from before. The ridicule on the latter's face had yet to dissipate when it was frozen by Zi Chen's saber. This scene was clearly unexpected and unbelievable. However, what was even more unexpected was that Zi Chen had actually flashed into the space of the late corporeal stage expert with his saber in hand. He had entered the latter's domain. Shang Guanhong wanted to stop him, but it was too late. She had just flashed to the place where the void had been split open, but the space had already closed up. Even she could not sense the coordinates of the late corporeal stage expert in a short period of time. Zi Chen had given her a lot of shock along the way. Although she knew that Zi Chen was very strong and had a very meticulous mind, she was still clearly worried when she saw that Zi Chen had actually taken the initiative to enter the small world of the late corporeal stage expert. 3 breaths passed while she waited anxiously. 3 breaths later, the void suddenly split open again a few hundred meters away from Shang Guanhong. Immediately after, a sorry figure rushed out. "Are you even human?" A panicked voice rang out as the figure rushed out. It was the late corporeal stage expert. He had actually abandoned his own world of his own accord and started to flee. Shang Guanhong stared blankly at the fleeing figure with a face full of fear and panic. Suddenly, another saber light shot out from the void. The destructive aura within this saber light was very obvious. Zi Chen once again broke into the world of the late corporeal stage expert with a saber and rushed out. He flapped his thunder wings and chased after the fleeing late corporeal stage expert. The two of them quickly disappeared from Shang Guanhong's line of sight, one chasing the other. Although she still had some confidence in Zi Chen, she never imagined that things would end up like this. This is too scary. He's only at the mid-illusory stage. Even if he has wings, he's still at the early corporeal stage. However, he managed to scare a late corporeal stage expert and make him run away. Shang Guanhong faintly sighed. Zi Chen's figure quickly appeared in her line of sight. It was obvious that the battle was over. The late corporeal stage expert was dead. A person at the level of a large captain of the city army had died. Just like that. Zi Chen seemed to be in a pretty good mood after returning. Although he didn't like killing people, he had gained quite a lot from it. Zi Chen was very satisfied with this result. "What do we do now? Are we still going to go deeper?" Shang Guanhong asked. She was the guide of the two, but most of the time, she had to ask for Zi Chen's opinion. Zi Chen shook his head and said, "No, we've already been exposed. Let's just wait here. Just stand here and wait." Shang Guanhong asked again. "No, I'm a little hungry. Let's eat while we wait." As he spoke, Zi Chen's figure descended from the sky and found a pool of water. He took out a large piece of spirit-grade beast meat from his spirit ring and began to wash it. Shang Guanhong was a little startled when she saw Zi Chen's serious expression. However, when she thought about Zi Chen's battle strength and the confidence that filled his indifference, she didn't have anything to worry about. This time, her main goal was to bring Zi Chen out to gain experience. Of course, Elder Ling also wanted her to act as a bodyguard and protect Zi Chen. However, along the way, she seemed to have discovered that Zi Chen didn't need any protection at all. More importantly, Zi Chen's barbecue skills were quite good. She was born in the Jianwu continent, so her cultivation speed was very fast. Coupled with the special circumstances of the Jianwu continent, she had almost never left the city before the Earth Realm, let alone gain experience and eat barbecue in the wild. After the Earth Realm, She went out a few times, but there were people protecting her. At best, she went out to see the scenery. It was the same when she was in the virtual realm. It wasn't until she broke through to the reality realm that she had freedom. Usually, when she went out, she would learn from those cultivators and barbecue in the wild. However, compared to Zichen, who had hundreds or even thousands of years of barbecue skills, her skills were really weak. Moreover, Zichen's seriousness and concentration when he was barbecuing was also very attractive. Shang Guanhong found that she was a little distracted, and her pretty face couldn't help but blush. The large piece of barbecue gradually changed color, and grease appeared on the surface. The grease began to drip down, falling on the charcoal below and turning into fire snakes. Zichan was very serious about barbecuing. Every time a fire snake appeared, he would move the barbecue away, not letting the fire snake touch it at all. Under the pure high temperature of the barbecue, Zichen's barbecue not only looked good, but also tasted delicious without any smoke. Coupled with the delicate texture of the spirit-grade beast meat, it could be called a perfect masterpiece. During this time, Zichen took out a bottle of wine from another world, eating good food, drinking good wine, and looking at beautiful women. This kind of life was naturally very pleasant. It wasn't known whether Zichen was thinking this or not, but the people who came later couldn't help but feel jealous when they saw this warm scene. The sound of something breaking through the air constantly rang out. This time, many corporeal realm cultivators had come. Moreover, they knew that Zichen had once slaughtered early corporeal realm cultivators, so those who dared to come this time were mostly mid and late corporeal realm cultivators. As for early corporeal realm cultivators, they hid in the distance, waiting for a chance to pick up some scraps. When these people arrived, the first thing they smelled was the rich aroma of the barbecue. When they saw Shang Guanhong below, they immediately felt that she was a feast for the eyes. At the same time, they appeared indifferent on the surface, but in their hearts, they were secretly envious and jealous of Zichen. The barbecue meat was placed on a special plate. With a beauty beside him, Zichen naturally ate in a very refined manner. On the other side, Shang Guanhong was also chewing and swallowing slowly. There was flowing water, mountain rocks, green scenery, and most importantly, a beautiful woman. This scene was quiet and peaceful. It was a very beautiful picture. Only the black eagle wolfing down the food beside him slightly ruined the scenery. More and more corporeal realm cultivators arrived in the sky and gradually surrounded Zichen from all directions. However, Zichen seemed not to have noticed and continued eating. These corporeal realm cultivators didn't immediately attack after they appeared. They looked down at Zichen indifferently, only occasionally swallowing their saliva to show that Zichen's barbecue was indeed delicious. Just smelling the aroma was enough to make people drool. Another group of cultivators arrived in the distance, but they didn't come forward. The leader was the captain of Huping City's Zhou family, Zhou Chong. Zhou Chong had arrived with a group of city guards. These city guards had all concealed their identities and revealed themselves as hunters. This kid's luck with women is not bad. He really knows how to enjoy himself. Zhou Chong's eyes flashed with surprise when he saw Shang Guanhong. He snorted and watched coldly from the side, not coming forward. On the other side, a young man appeared on a big tree. The young man had a pair of vertical pupils and a red mark between his eyebrows. He looked very sinister. When he saw Shang Guanhong sitting opposite Zichen in the distance and eating quietly, a cold light flashed in his vertical pupils. He felt extremely uncomfortable, and at the same time he detested Zichen to the extreme. "Let me see what you've got." The red mark between his eyebrows began to tremble in the next moment. Then it slowly expanded, revealing an eye inside. It was also a vertical pupil. Following that, a formless ray of light shot out from the vertical pupil. This ray of light shot straight towards Zichen. Chapter 1267. Zichen turned around and only saw a large tree. Apart from that, he saw nothing else. However, Zi-Chun did not believe that it was an illusion. Immediately after, two beams of light shot out from his eyes. These were two materialized beams of light, one gold and one silver. They were the yin-yang eyes. However, under the yin-yang eyes, Zi-Chun still did not notice anything out of the ordinary. "What's wrong?" Shang Guanhong asked when she sensed that something was wrong with Zi-Chun's expression. She did not see Zi-Chun use the yin-yang eyes. The others saw it, and in an instant they had an uncomfortable feeling in their hearts. The yin-yang eye gave them a very strange feeling. Not discovering anything did not mean that there was nothing out of the ordinary. Zi-Chun, who was originally confident and calm, was still full of confidence at this moment. However, there was an additional sense of vigilance. This vigilance was for the surrounding environment and also for the many freaks of the warring martial continent. In this mysterious and dangerous world, one needed to be constantly vigilant. He had wanted to wait a little longer, but now he did not. He knew that an existence that was a threat to him had arrived. Following that, Zi-Chun stood up and the black blade appeared in his hand. In another direction, the sinister youth's figure appeared. There was a hint of surprise on his sinister face. What sharp senses! I was almost discovered. What was that just now? Was it also an innate eye technique? He took out his blade. Is he about to attack? Zhou Chong also saw Zi-Chun with a blade. The corners of his mouth could not help but curl into a sneer. He knew that a great battle was about to unfold. Everyone be careful. Remember, our goal is to take advantage of the chaos to kill Zi-Chun and seize the final wings, Zhou Chong reminded them. The others nodded one after another and then prepared for battle. Around the dome of the sky, more and more realms gathered. However, they did not make a move. The most fundamental reason for this was that the people who came were not familiar with each other. No one was willing to be the first to attack and let others take advantage of them. Further away, there were even more realms gathered. Most of them were early stage or people who knew their limits. When Zi-Chun took out his blade, everyone's expressions became cautious. However, they still did not make a move. At this time, because there were too many people and too many people, no one made a sound. The atmosphere was silent and oppressive. Zi-Chun scanned his surroundings indifferently with his blade in hand. Then his gaze landed on a mid-stage corporeal realm expert. In this battle, his first slash would begin from his opponent's body. This mid-corporeal realm expert was wearing a defensive armor that was worth millions. The weapon in his hand was also of high quality. It seemed that he was doing quite well. He had participated in many battles, big and small, and had killed countless people. But for some reason, when Zi-Chun's indifferent eyes swept over him, his heart suddenly trembled. On the boulder on the ground, Zi-Chun's figure trembled slightly before an illusory figure appeared in the next moment. "They're making their move." A loud shout came from the crowd, but not everyone rushed towards Zi-Chun to kill him. Instead, they scattered in all directions. The illusory figure took on a strange shape and speed as it soared into the air, passing through the crowd and charging towards the middle stage corporeal realm expert. The sudden sense of danger in his heart made him realize that Zi-Chun had locked onto him. Therefore, he let out a loud shout and slashed forward with his weapon. At the same time, the defensive armor around his body began to glow, forming a dark corporeal light barrier. Poof! The pitch-black blade light quickly passed through the corporeal realm expert's attack and landed on his body first. A soft sound came from the light barrier as it was cut open by the blade light. Then, the black blade appeared and swept past the opponent's neck. It was another slash. The crowd who had just dodged felt somewhat apprehensive as they stared at the headless corpse, spurting blood. The middle stage corporeal realm experts, in particular, felt an icy chill on their necks. They had moved aside because they wanted to see how strong Zi-Chun's first attack was and make some adjustments to deal with it. However, they had never imagined that he would be able to cut off the head of a middle stage corporeal realm expert with just one attack. The middle stage corporeal realm experts felt a chill in their hearts as cold sweat began to form on their hands that were tightly gripping their weapons. If a person wearing a defensive armor had been cut down by a single slash, then those who were not wearing any defensive armor felt even more fear in their hearts. The corpse fell from the sky, but Chen did not have the time to pick up. His cold gaze swept the surroundings once again. This time, many of the middle-stage corporeal realm experts subconsciously took a step back and held their weapons horizontally in front of their chests. The thunder wings on Chen's back unfurled as the aura around him began to soar. A 3-meter wide corporeal space formed behind him. A 3-meter wide corporeal space was really too small, but it was very eye-catching. At this moment, many people who had only heard rumors and had never seen Chen with their own eyes finally believed in the miraculous abilities of the wings. The evil-looking youth stood on a large tree in the distance. When he saw Chen cut down a middle-stage corporeal realm expert with one slash, an evil smile appeared on his face. "Not bad speed, and your attack power isn't." As he spoke, he suddenly stopped. His expression changed because, at this moment, Chen had revealed his wings. This caused his pupils to abruptly shrink. However, what caused his expression to change was that Chen's speed had increased several times after he revealed his wings. He could only see a blurry shadow with his naked eye. Moreover, the shadow was intermittent, appearing and disappearing from time to time. It was impossible for him to catch sight of Chen's true body. This speed had already far surpassed his own by several times. Just this speed alone was enough to make Chen invincible. The evil-looking youth's expression suddenly turned ugly. He wanted to see what Chen's true body looked like in such a situation. He wanted to see what kind of footwork Chen used. But he was also worried that Chen would sense him. He was somewhat hesitant. While he was hesitating, Chen had already flashed past the 3 middle-stage corporeal realm experts. Every time Chen's flickering figure appeared, there would be a flash of black saber light that would cut off a person's head. This is the fastest speed in the world. The evil-looking youth did not open the vertical pupil between his brows in the end. He did not want to be discovered by Chen, or perhaps he did not want to expose himself so early. He knew from Ming Chu that Chen's speed was very likely the fastest in the world. Now that he saw it, even the arrogant youth could not help but sigh in his heart. It's said that the fastest speed in the world is exclusive to the Lei clan. Now that he has the Thunder Wings, his speed has reached an extreme. But isn't the Lei clan in another prefecture? Why is this Lei clan member here? The evil-looking youth frowned slightly as he muttered to himself. He understood the use of the Thunder Wings the moment he saw Chen. However, not everyone knew some ancient secrets, and not everyone had extraordinary eyesight. The Thunder Wings were indeed a priceless treasure, but only in Chen's hands. It was a true priceless treasure. If it were someone else who wasn't from the Thunder Clan, the value of this priceless treasure would be greatly reduced. But it would still be a priceless treasure. Corpses fell from the sky one after another as heads flew into the air. Chen relied on the fastest speed in the world and borrowed the power of space to appear and disappear from time to time. In the eyes of a mid-corporeal realm expert, the speed Chen was currently displaying was equivalent to teleportation. They could not detect or grasp his movements at all. In the face of the elusive Chen, they could only passively defend. However, this defense was nothing in front of Chen. A single slash of his blade would break through their defenses, and the black blade would cut off their heads. This was a very simple battle. It was just that the speed was so fast that many people could not see it clearly. However, if everyone's speed was slowed down by 1,000 times, they would see that the thunder wings on Chen's back were flapping and his feet were moving along with them. A mysterious power of space was created between the two of them, causing Chen's speed to increase. However, Chen was not teleporting. He was still moving forward one step at a time. It was just that his speed was faster. After slowing down his movements, Chen looked like he was running quickly, but the movements of the others were even slower. It was as if a slow spell had been cast on them, or as if they were carrying a mountain on their backs. Every small movement of theirs had to be paused. Ziqin, on the other hand, simply walked over and slashed down with his blade, killing one person. It was that simple. Naturally, Ziqin's speed could not be slowed down. Therefore, this simple battle continued at an extremely fast speed. All the mid-corporeal realm experts present were scared out of their wits by Ziqin's killing technique. At this moment, they no longer had the will to fight, only endless coldness and fear. They began to retreat and flee. All mid-corporeal realm experts retreat. At the same time, a series of loud shouts rang out. These shouts came from the late corporeal realm experts. They were not afraid of Ziqin. Instead, they were infuriated by Ziqin's method of killing. As for the mid-corporeal realm experts, not only were they unable to help, they were even hindering them. The mid-corporeal realm experts began to retreat. After Ziqin chased after a few more people, many late corporeal realm experts surrounded him and blocked his path. The real battle had just begun. The evil-looking youth's expression did not change, but there seemed to be some kind of expectation in his eyes. A trace of worry appeared on Sheng Guanhong's face. Zhou Cheng, on the other hand, had a look of ridicule on his face after his initial shock. He was already prepared to take advantage of the situation. Kill! Battle cries rang out from the heavens and the earth. Numerous spatial forces pressed down on Ziqin. Ziqin was not afraid of a late corporeal realm expert at all. Moreover, the spatial pressure did not affect Ziqin's speed at all. However, there were many late corporeal realm experts around him. The spatial pressure greatly affected Ziqin's speed. Then, the late corporeal realm experts charged forward. Numerous attacks arrived. Multicolored energy attacks with terrifying auras swept through the area and rushed towards Ziqin. Ziqin dodged once again. As he dodged, he rushed towards a late corporeal realm expert. Clang! After passing through the layers of attacks, Ziqin arrived in front of a late corporeal realm expert. A sharp sword light pierced towards Ziqin's chest. However, it was struck by a piece of armor, causing a clanging sound to erupt. Several scales where the tip of the sword had struck shattered. However, they had blocked the attack for Ziqin. Chapter 1268. Blade light flashed, breaking all rules and destroying everything. Ziqin had successfully killed a late corporeal realm expert. A one-hit kill. The price he had to pay was that the scales on his armor and stomach were shattered. It seemed like a small price to pay, but it meant that Ziqin was no longer invincible. Moreover, the shattered scales on his armor also meant that the armor had been damaged and its effectiveness had greatly weakened. This was Ziqin's current situation, but the crowd in the distance did not think so. They were all very shocked when they saw Ziqin kill a late corporeal realm expert with one strike. One had to know that he was at most an early corporeal realm expert. Seeing this scene with their own eyes was enough to prove that Ziqin had the qualifications to reach the peak of the late corporeal realm. He does have some skill, the evil-looking youth thought to himself. Just as he killed the late corporeal realm expert, a cold blade light containing the power of space slashed towards Ziqin's back. Ziqin had just dodged the first strike, but after his speed decreased, he was unable to dodge the second strike that followed. Bang! More scales on his armor shattered as a wave of energy broke through his defense and entered Ziqin's body. However, it was neutralized by Ziqin's powerful physique. Swoosh! Ziqin's lightning wings flapped again as his body began to flicker. He borrowed the power of space to change his form, but when faced with numerous powerful and swift late-stage attacks, clanging sounds could be heard from Ziqin's body from time to time. By the time Ziqin's figure reappeared and successfully killed a second late corporeal realm expert, there were already many white spots on his constantly flapping lightning wings. These were all attacks that he could not dodge, so he used his lightning wings to block them. Surrounded by a group of late corporeal realm experts, Zichen was in danger at every turn. His expression became very serious, very cautious, and very careful. This was because the slightest carelessness could lead to serious injuries or even death. The crowd in the distance was shocked by Zichen's powerful battle strength. Facing a group of late corporeal realm experts, Zichen was still able to fight back. To them, this was undoubtedly a miracle. They were incomparably moved and shocked. Zhou Chong was so shocked that he couldn't say a word. He didn't dare to step forward. He only dared to wait for Zichen to lose and pick up the scraps. Only a beast tamer would be able to easily handle such a situation. I didn't expect him to be able to handle it all by himself. The evil-looking young man's face was also filled with astonishment. Shang Guanhong was a little worried and decided to make a move. I don't need your help in this battle, and neither does Black Eagle. Zichen suddenly transmitted his voice. In this battle, he wanted to kill by himself and carve out a piece of heaven that belonged to him. If he could persevere until the end of this battle, then no one in the reality realm would come looking for trouble with him in the future. More importantly, Zichen wanted to use this battle to find a way to break through. At the same time, he wanted to intimidate that dangerous existence in the dark. Pu, the third late-stage corporeal realm expert, was killed by Zichen, but the armor on his body had also shattered in many places. In the end, it reached its limit and broke apart. His armor shattered along with his shirt, revealing Zichen's firm bronze skin. The group of late corporeal realm experts seemed to have seen hope and increased the intensity of their attacks. Pu, Zichen's heart was cut by a blade. A very deep wound immediately appeared on his body, but it didn't reach his bones. Golden blood flowed out from the wound. The power of laws attached to the surface of Zichen's wound and began to destroy Zichen's life force. He's injured. He can't hold on any longer. The late-stage corporeal realm expert's face clearly showed joy as he shouted loudly. This was the suppression of laws. Even a small wound would be in danger of death if it wasn't treated in time. That was how Oder and Jesse had died that day. Zichen didn't dare to guarantee that this late-stage corporeal realm expert would be able to hold on until the end. However, he was certain that this late-stage corporeal realm expert would die prematurely. Pu, a pitch-black blade light flashed. The late-stage corporeal realm expert, who couldn't retreat in time, was cut down by Zichen. By now, Zichen had already killed 4 people. Although the death of a single late-stage corporeal realm expert would normally be shocking, there were simply too many late-stage corporeal realm experts gathered here today. Not only were they not afraid of the death of 4 people, they were even more bloodthirsty. Pu, another blade landed on Zichen's back. This time, the late-stage corporeal realm expert's attack was clearly not weak. The wound this time was so deep that his bones could be seen. Moreover, the opponent had dodged in time. He didn't wait for Zichen to turn around before he disappeared and retreated. Pu, Pu, Pu. One late-stage corporeal realm expert after another was beheaded by Zichen, becoming a soul under his blade. However, Zichen had also paid a great price for this. Many wounds had appeared on his body, and golden blood continuously flowed out from them. It was a ghastly sight. In the eyes of the crowd, Zichen should be proud of himself for being able to hold on until now. However, in the eyes of the crowd, Zichen had reached the end of his life. There were many wounds on his body. Coupled with the suppression of laws, he looked like he was about to die. He's only in the early stage. He will consume more and more energy, and his injuries will become more and more serious. Everyone hold on. The late-stage corporeal realm expert, who had left several wounds on Zichen, shouted loudly to encourage the crowd. In fact, there was no need for that at all. At this point, no one would give up. Zichen's ghastly and constantly bleeding wounds were the greatest encouragement for them. After beheading another person, Zichen looked at the group of corporeal realm experts and grinned. Blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, making his smile look very sinister. Within the endless void, plentiful energy surged into his body. Among these energies, there was also a surge of destructive power and life force. The destructive power was constantly destroying the laws of reality that were trying to enter his body, while the life force was deeply healing Zi Chen's body. At this moment, Zi Chen looked like he was in a sorry state, but his injuries weren't that serious. As long as he had enough energy, he could continue to fight. As for energy consumption, Zi Chen had the support of a world behind him. It was obvious that these people wouldn't be able to do as they wished if they wanted to exhaust his yuan energy and kill him. Covered in blood, Zi Chen charged towards a late-stage corporeal realm expert and beheaded him. Every time he killed someone, there would be many wounds on his body. However, he didn't care as he charged towards a second corporeal realm expert. At this moment, Zi Chen looked very miserable. His numerous wounds made it seem like he would die at any moment. However, in this half-dead state, Zi Chen persisted for another 15 minutes and killed another 6 people. He was still alive. However, his condition seemed to be a little sluggish. The late-stage corporeal realm experts hadn't retreated yet. They were still very confident as Zi Chen swung his blade again. More and more laws of reality entered his body. Like a high-speed machine, they worked cautiously and strictly on their own. It was once said that compared to Shangguan Hong, Zi Chen, who had comprehended the laws of nature, was like an amateur. However, this amateur knew all the tricks of a professional. He might not be as good as a professional, but he was definitely much better than a layman. At this moment, many of the laws of nature, such as the laws of water, wood, and other laws, were repairing his injuries. These laws were also repairing some of the hidden injuries on Zi Chen's body. Although Zi Chen was fighting alone and his realm was very low, he had the support of a world behind him. He also had the support of many powerful laws of reality. Although he wasn't immortal, it was still very difficult to kill him. Another quarter of an hour passed. Zi Chen still looked like he was on the verge of death, but this time he had cut down 7 late-stage corporeal realm experts. In total, the number of late-stage corporeal realm experts that Zi Chen had killed had reached 20. There were still dozens of late-stage corporeal realm experts around him, and even more had rushed over. It was as if all the late-stage corporeal realm experts in Huping City had gathered here at this moment. He won't last much longer. Everyone hold on. A late-stage corporeal realm expert, who had obviously just arrived, cheered for everyone when he saw Zi Chen in such a state. Everyone else was speechless, and the spectators were even more speechless. Half an hour ago, Zi Chen had looked like he was on the brink of death. But now, not only was he still alive, more than 10 late corporeal realm experts had died. His injuries are so serious, and he's also being attacked by the laws of reality. He shouldn't be able to hold on any longer. The evil-looking youth's eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. The longer Zi Chen lasted, the more wary he became of Zi Chen. Uft! Zi Chen's movements had become somewhat mechanical. The frequency of his rapid transformations had decreased, but his attacks had become much more ruthless. Every time he struck, someone would die. How is this possible? He's still holding on. No, he's still the same. Why does he always look like he's about to die, but he never dies? The late-stage corporeal realm experts weren't the only ones who had discovered the abnormality. Even the spectators in the distance felt that something was wrong. Zi Chen was only at the mid-illusory realm. He was only at the early corporeal realm thanks to his thunder wings, but he was still only 3 meters tall. Moreover, every time he attacked, he used corporeal realm power. It was obvious that this would cause him to expend even more energy. However, more than 20 late-stage corporeal realm experts had died by now. Many of the late-stage corporeal realm experts who had been holding on earlier were showing signs of exhaustion, but Zi Chen was still holding on. From the looks of it, he hadn't expended any energy at all. The slaughter continued as more and more corpses piled up on the ground. The half-dead Zichin had not only not expended any energy, he had even become more energetic, and his attacks had become even more incisive. It was at this moment that they finally realized that something was wrong with Zichin. Their expressions changed drastically. They had persisted in the face of Zichen's killing technique that killed one person with a single strike because they felt that they had a chance of killing Zichin. But now, after realizing that something was wrong with Zichin, they had lost their confidence. Once they lost their confidence, the group of late-stage corporeal realm experts no longer persisted and decided to flee. When one of them fled, the others followed suit. At this moment, the encirclement of the crowd against Zichin completely collapsed. The encirclement lasted for about 2 hours from the beginning to the end. During this time, more than 40 late-stage corporeal realm experts had died. Zichin didn't chase after the crowd as they fled. He gripped his blade and faced the sky as he shouted indifferently at the fleeing cultivators, "If I ever see you again, I will kill you without mercy." His words were sonorous and full of energy. He didn't seem to be injured at all. Moreover, some observant people could clearly see that Zichen's injuries were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The late-stage corporeal realm experts ran even faster. The mid-stage and early-stage corporeal realm experts also retreated far away.